Lord of Mystery, The Return of the Stars Chapter 721 to 740. Before Trunsoest could react, the surrounding space changed instantly, like a cage full of mud, blocking all his retreat routes. At the same time, there were two forces suppressing him tightly, preventing him from coming out for a short time. He could only watch himself being forced to pass through the space crack and touch a corner of the Kingdom of Disorder. This is absolutely abnormal. They would never want to help me. Trunsoest realized the seriousness of the situation, frantically explored a chain of rules, and at the same time formulated many rules that were beneficial to him. For example, it is forbidden to take action here, it is forbidden to teleport here, and it is forbidden to have forces that do not belong to the rules here. At this time, a sharp edge was like a sharp blade, ignoring various rules and obstacles, and accurately inserted into Trunsoest's heart, and the feeling of suffocation instantly spread throughout his body. He vaguely heard waves of ancient sacrificial sounds coming from outside, and the Kingdom of Disorder, which had been quiet, became active again, like a huge beast awakened from its sleep. Trunsoest flashed and distanced himself from the Kingdom of Disorder. Behind him, 2 more breaths from the starry sky blocked his retreat and sealed his escape space. The awakened Kingdom of Disorder opened its greedy mouth and bit down at Trunsoest. Only then did Trunsoest realize that these outer gods had already set up traps here, waiting for him and the lamp god to step into the trap, and then use their power to help the Kingdom of Disorder come completely. At this moment, he was the sacrifice. Understanding this, Trunsoest instantly abandoned his greed for the Kingdom of Disorder, and with the uniqueness of the Judgment Path, he quickly aroused a small part of the power outside the Kingdom of Disorder, allowing real chaos to come. This desperate move effectively disrupted the arrangements made by several outer gods for him, giving him a chance to breathe for a while. Escape. Trunsoest did not stay for long. Taking advantage of this gap, he left the space crack and returned to the real world. The 2 golden rule chains under his feet extended to the horizon, and his entire figure disappeared into the distance. During this process, he seemed to hear a stealing whisper, and his body inexplicably felt empty. When he went far away and was temporarily safe, he found that his sequence 1 hand of order Beander characteristic had been stolen. Trunsoest looked ugly, but he could only be thankful that it was not the uniqueness of the Judgment Path that was stolen. He did not stay there for long, and quickly fled away. On the other side, the Jinn who was surrounded and beaten saw that 7 outer gods from the starry sky attacked him. The mighty momentum was about to bury him here completely. Bernadette saw it most clearly and believed that there was definitely a personal grudge here. The Jinn, who was obviously at a disadvantage, did not admit defeat at all. He cursed all the outer gods who attacked him, and then quickly left here with the help of Bernadette. As for the fight for the country of disorder, the lamp god has seen clearly that because the country of disorder has not completely escaped the seal of the Lord of Mysteries, these outer gods who only have clones have no way to directly seize the country of disorder. There are currently 2 more feasible ways. One is that he personally summons the country of disorder and lets the country of disorder take the last step. The other is that the Lord of Mysteries participates and helps to open this last seal. In the latter case, the Lord of Mysteries is still fighting with Klein for consciousness, and what he can do is limited. Unless there is a suitable price, he may release the country of disorder, and he did not make a deal with him. After thinking this through, the lamp god did not hesitate and chose to stay away from this chaotic area. After he left a certain distance, he angrily said to himself, "They actually want to smash the country of disorder with brute force." The lamp god sensed the situation in the country of disorder and was so angry that his teeth itched, but he did not dare to take risks again. He looked up at the starry sky again. At this moment, the starry sky full of shining stars has replaced the daytime and covered the scarlet moon. Stars, will you let them break the seal? Although the seal left by the Lord of Mysteries is very powerful, the Kingdom of Disorder is only 1 step away from a complete arrival. As long as there are enough outer gods and the old ones cooperate, the seal can theoretically be broken and the Kingdom of Disorder can be completely arrived. The lamp god and Bernadette did not wait for the will of the stars, but waited for the alliance of local secret existences such as Wool, the goddess of night, the god of steam and machinery, and the original witch. In the era when the outer gods and the old ones were in vogue, the secret existences that had always been at odds with the Orthodox Church also chose to unite with the few remaining Orthodox gods to jointly maintain the situation within the initial barrier. The wheel of destiny passed by, cutting off the tentacles of the nearby outer gods and the old ones reaching out to the Kingdom of Disorder. The flashing key of light lay quietly in Will's palm, exuding an aura that made the outer gods and the old ones extremely fearful. At present, in the initial barrier, apart from God, the Lord of Mysteries, and the stars, Will, who holds the key of light, is the strongest. The strength of half of the Old One is enough for him to suppress these outer God Old One clones with only sequence 1 strength. If you want to snatch the essence, you have to rely on your own ability. What is the reason for you to prevent the kingdom of disorder from appearing in the world? An outer God Old One said angrily. I also rely on my ability to prevent you from seizing the kingdom of disorder, is that not okay? Will replied lazily, but the determination in his words made many outer God Old Ones think about leaving temporarily. Even if you become a real Old One, you are not qualified to say such big words. An outer God Old One sneered. Will sat on top of the ring of destiny and said with disdain, it's a pity that your current condition is worse than mine. Haha, the ring of fate and the weaver of destiny are waiting for you in the starry sky. I'm also waiting for them here. If you have the ability, do you want them to appear in front of me now? If we really want to break up, you may not have the upper hand. You guys can give it a try. Will's tone was very strong and there was no room for change. Seeing that Will had suppressed the situation, the goddess of the night transformed into a figure and came to Will's side to smooth things over. Now is not the time for the kingdom of disorder to come fully. Why should we fight life and death because of the bait thrown by others? Unless you want to satisfy the pusher hiding in the dark. The words, like the cool breeze in the night, blew away the tense atmosphere just now, and also allowed some outer gods who were almost going crazy to regain a moment of peace and think. The reason why the kingdom of disorder appears here and is stuck in the final step of its complete arrival is definitely because of the Lord of Mystery. If you don't try, how will you know the result? Even if you use bait, there is no guarantee of successful fishing. It is common for fish to take away the bait. The Lord of Mysteries can't protect himself now. How reliable can his plan be? It's just a clone. Even if it dies, it won't have any substantial impact on us. Will and the night goddess's routine of one strong and one soft cannot eliminate the covetousness of most of the outer gods for the kingdom of disorder. They started to move again. At this time, the stars were shining brightly, and the 3 law enforcers from the Church of the Stars also came to the area. Although they just watched everything in front of them calmly and did not express any opinions, many of the old outer gods felt a chill in their hearts. The returning authority of the stars gives him the ability to send back the old gods of the outer gods at any time. The star law enforcers are an extension of the will of the stars. If they take action, many outer gods of the old ones will be sent back to the stars tonight, or be swallowed by the box of the old ones. We are now more than 10 years away from the predicted doomsday. For you, this time is not even enough to take a nap, so why are you in such a hurry? The goddess of the night continued to speak. His voice has the power to make people calm down easily, and it can invisibly dissipate desires, anger, impulses and other emotions in their hearts. Several outer gods had already left here early in the past, and they didn't want to just break up with each other at this stage. Should we have the right to study it alone? Whatever. Will waved his hand. So be it. There are also some outer gods who have restrained their auras in the past and took a human form to explore the places where the kingdom of disorder comes into contact with the real world at close range. The last part of the outer gods in the old days, alone and alone, also chose to disappear into the darkness and disappear. It's finally over. Will breathed a sigh of relief in a place where no hidden existence was watching. Although he had the key of light, he was still a little unsure of his current strength. Go back. The goddess of night also showed a little relief in her eyes. At this time, at the space crack where the kingdom of disorder crashed, a figure quickly arrived here through the space portal, and then quickly rushed towards the kingdom of disorder. Some outer gods wanted to intercept, but the back of the figure revealed twisted and strange lines, filled with a strong breath of the Lord of Mystery. The breath of the Lord of Mystery spread, effectively deterring the outer gods who wanted to take action. Something is wrong. The goddess of night and Will found something wrong at the same time. One tried to trap the man in the kingdom of night, and the other wanted to find the fate line of the figure from the torrent of fate, understand his origin and identity, and end his fate. The twisted and strange lines were like a black sky, temporarily blocking the goddess of night. The figure broke into the range of the country of disorder and began to walk counterclockwise in a square. He took the first step and then chanted in standard ancient Fesic language, "Blessings to Xuanwang Immortal Venerable." He took the second step and chanted sincerely, blessings to Xuanwang immortal lord. He took the third step and chanted, blessings to Xuanwang god. He took the fourth step and raised his head and shouted, blessings to Xuanwang heavenly venerable. Endless gray fog spread from him, and the twisted and strange lines made the whole space tremble. The surrounding exuded an extremely palpitating breath, as if an ancient existence was being awakened from sleep. A pair of dark red eyes slowly gathered in the deepest part of the gray fog. The former Lord of Mystery, blessings to Xuanwang heavenly venerable, seemed to be coming here. The country of disorder, affected by the power of the heavenly venerable, began to violently churn and collide with the seal. The seal melted at a speed visible to the naked eye, like a mirror that became thinner and thinner with each collision. The outer gods who had already left, noticing this change, turned back again, and at the same time intercepted Will and the goddess of night in a tacit understanding to prevent them from doing bad things at the critical moment. Seeing the situation change, Will no longer hesitated, raised his right hand, and pressed it on his forehead, allowing the key of light in his palm to completely merge into his body. Will roared and turned into a huge mercury snake. His huge body bound the kingdom of disorder in a circle, connecting head to tail, forming a wheel of fate filled with countless fate forces. Reverse fate. The wheel of fate turned a circle at a very fast speed, abruptly changing the fate of the Tianzun believers who had just broken into the kingdom of disorder and helped the kingdom of disorder to unseal it, allowing the kingdom of disorder to stay quietly in the seal again. During this process, many outer gods launched a fierce attack on Will. Although Will's body was isolated by the torrent of fate, the power that was difficult to dissolve still blasted the surrounding land into pieces, leaving unfathomable deep pits. Will's silver-white mercury snake body obviously dimmed, but soon, the wheel of fate turned again, and he returned to the peak moment, completely undamaged. This is the place where the key of light holds the power of fate, which makes the outer gods fear. Unless fate can be isolated or Will is killed in one fell swoop, Will can change his damaged fate again and again through the wheel of fate. But before Will and the goddess of night can breathe a sigh of relief, the gray fog has not dissipated, and the pair of dark red eyes in the depths have taken shape, full of majesty and teasing eyes. Just a glance at the kingdom of disorder, it penetrates Will's fate barrier and removes the seal of the last layer of shackles that bind the kingdom of disorder. Will wants to reverse his fate again, but he finds that the fate imposed by the heavenly venerable has become a fait accompli and can no longer be reversed. The kingdom of disorder, which has lost its seal, has become active again, and the chaotic and disordered power that has accumulated for countless years has suddenly erupted. Will, who has bound the kingdom of disorder, has been hit the strongest. The wheel of fate, which was connected from beginning to end, did not loosen the behavior of binding the kingdom of disorder. Instead, it continued to strengthen the suppression of the kingdom of disorder in a cycle over and over again, preventing it from completely descending into the real world. The angry goddess of night came from the kingdom of God, holding a huge black sickle, and cut off the devout believer of the heavenly venerable with one blow, and imprisoned his soul in the sickle of death. At the same time, the kingdom of night was shrouded, and the breath of dusk spread, expelling the gray fog power here, and breaking up the awakening consciousness of the heavenly venerable. The god of steam and machinery, the original witch, etc. helped Will relieve the pressure from the outer gods from all directions. The Lord of Mystery has broken the seal with his own hands, which means that the kingdom of disorder has completely escaped the seal. Whoever can grab it will be the new owner of the kingdom of disorder. The greed for power and the desire for aggregation made it difficult for the outer gods to suppress their instincts. They took off the disguise of human bodies and restored their true faces in the starry sky. In an instant, chaos, depravity, desire, evil, darkness, pollution, all kinds of forces erupted, and the entire land of Caister County suffered a huge impact again. The peaks were flattened, the plains became rift valleys, the rivers were blocked and cut off, the fertile fields became deserts, and the forests became swamps. Faced with the violent outbreak of the outer gods, Will, who was the first to bear the brunt, could no longer suppress the escape of the kingdom of disorder while resisting various dense attacks. The silver-white body is covered with wounds of various colors, including scorching flames, extremely cold frost, evil erosion to the bone, and black scars with dark pollution. No matter how much the wheel of fortune turns, the injuries become more serious every time. In the distance, members of the Star Council such as the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Master, the Declined King, and the Glorious Hunter chose to stand by and watch. They know the relationship between Will and the stars, so they will not offend the stars, but they will not choose to stand against most of the outer gods in the past. They are also waiting for the moment when the kingdom of disorder will arrive in its entirety. Now is just the prelude. The son of chaos, the master of the former country of disorder, has not yet appeared, and any struggle at this moment is meaningless. As for helping the sons of chaos obtain the kingdom of disorder, if the sons of chaos weren't such assholes on weekdays, they might give this proposal some serious consideration. Here we come. The eyes of the desire tree lit up. Oh, how could he hold back at such a critical moment? There was a trace of ridicule on the corner of the superstar master's mouth. The fallen mother goddess and those guys from the Ring of Fate have been silent. I don't know what they are planning in secret. The declined king glanced at the current situation with concern. The glory hunter was silent and did not speak. He watched the battle for a while, locked onto an outer god, and then turned into a sharp arrow to attack and kill him. That was his hunting target in the stars. What a persistent hunter, the declined king said with admiration. It's a pity that my authority doesn't overlap with that of the son of chaos. They swallow it too blindly, and the disadvantages far outweigh the advantages. The fusion of multiple sources means that the experiment between God and the Lord of Mysteries is successful. Their fall is also related to this. It is better to be cautious. The mystery actually breaks the seal. It seems that he really wants to drag the whole world into chaos and disorder. Oh, he and his followers have been targeted by the major foreign gods in the past. Only by throwing out bait and creating chaos can the focus be shifted. The mother tree of desire chatted with the superstar master for a few words, then looked in the direction of the kingdom of disorder, ready to intercept at any time. As for the bad guys who prevent the sons of chaos from obtaining the kingdom of disorder, let them be the fallen mother goddess. While the outer gods were targeting Will, the jinn successfully arrived at Will's side, and was only the last step away from the kingdom of disorder. As long as Will's obstacle is overcome, the kingdom of disorder will be within easy reach. Will turned the bright big eyes of the mercury snake and landed on the jinn, but he did not speak. Instead, he exhaled two torrents of fate to intercept the various attacks that came again. As long as the jinn takes action to call the country of disorder, he will inevitably be unable to trap the country of disorder. If he gets a little closer, he can touch the kingdom of disorder that once belonged to him again. It was the kingdom he once lost in a part of his body. Returning to the starry sky is just a part of it being complete and no longer so incomplete. The most critical kingdom of disorder has not returned. Now, the opportunity to restore the wholeness is right in front of him, but he cannot touch it with his own hands, but has to suppress it. The lamp god standing in front of Will's huge body has a complicated expression. At such a close distance, he can already feel the call from the kingdom of disorder. It is eager to return to wholeness just like himself. Mystery, is this your calculation? Stars, is this your test? The lamp god looked up at the starry sky and murmured twice without anyone answering. In the end, he made his own decision. Under the gaze of many foreign gods in the past, he did not choose to call the kingdom of disorder. Instead, he relied on his connection with the kingdom of disorder to calm the restless and eager to break free from the shackles of the kingdom of disorder. Although he was only one step away from recovery, he still restrained his instinct to gather and his desire for many years, and chose to follow the will of the stars, temporarily not allowing the kingdom of disorder to descend completely. When the lamp god made his decision, Will uttered an excited low hum, and the wheel of destiny accelerated several times. The heavy injuries were completely recovered, and he even had a hand free. The torrent of destiny swept through, swept away the two clones of the outer gods, and crushed their bodies and consciousness. At the same time, the torrent of destiny flowed again, stretching in front of him, so that all the outer gods who had just taken action dared not move again. The outer gods looked past Will and fell on the lamp god, with confusion, surprise, and shock in their eyes. Just now, such a good opportunity, the bastard son of chaos did not take the opportunity to help the kingdom of disorder escape, and then regain control of the kingdom of disorder. He even helped to suppress the disturbances of the kingdom of disorder, freeing Will, the incarnation of destiny holding the key of light. What a pity! A low murmur came from the darkness, and the fallen mother goddess, the Ring of Fate and several other outer gods chose to wait and see. According to their original plan, they let the lamp god open the seal of the kingdom of disorder, and then they would snipe the lamp god and let him suffer. But they didn't expect that the lamp god would avoid it, and when the Lord of Mystery offered a great opportunity, the lamp god gave up again. Is this still the lawless son of chaos? He is simply the favored one of the stars, the executor of the will of the stars. Son of chaos, have you completely surrendered to the stars? An outer god mocked. Haha, you just want to plot against me. Do you really think I'm that stupid? The lamp god sneered, once the kingdom of disorder has fully arrived, you will let me be the first to appear. You can also take this opportunity to fight. A huge stone lion statue said in a deep voice, you gave up the opportunity to prove yourself. You have lost your courage and determination. You are shocked by the will of the stars. The lamp god was silent. He couldn't deny this sentence. If it weren't for the will of the stars, with his previous style, even if he knew that the Lord of Mystery and other outer gods were plotting against him, he would not let go of the opportunity just now. On the contrary, he would be more excited. After all, only by taking advantage of the fire can he prove his ability. This is called the wisdom given by time. The lamp god gave his own answer. At the beginning, he was foolish and stubborn, so he was tricked by the Lord of Mystery into the wishing lamp and imprisoned. This time, he would not act rashly again. No matter how you explain, you can't hide your fear and even fear of the stars. The disdainful and mocking voice came from the darkness, causing some of the outer gods to laugh triumphantly. At this time, the stars in the starry sky flashed, and the ancient star hall appeared in the endless starlight. The figure sitting in the star hall just quietly overlooked the earth, and the originally noisy movement returned to calm in an instant. 2 stars fell, and 2 more avatars of the outer gods were sent back to the starry sky. Some sharp-eyed outer gods found that these 2 outer gods who were sent back to the starry sky were the ones who had just wantonly destroyed the existence of Cayster County. One deliberately released his authority, causing the entire Cayster County to fall apart, and the other did not restrain his breath, causing many plants, flowers, birds, insects, fish and other creatures in Cayster to wither and die. After the episode, in the eyes of many outer gods, dozens of chains of stars fell like the Milky Way, accurately piercing through various areas of the Kingdom of Disorder, forming a cage of stars, and completely locking it up. The former master of the Kingdom of Disorder, the proud son of Chaos, was also sent into the cage of stars, staying with the Kingdom of Disorder. Will laughed when he saw this scene. The stars used actions to tell these outer gods that as long as the prophesied doomsday has not really come, everything in this world is still decided by the stars. Even if the seal of the Lord of Mystery is broken and the source of the real world is completely descended, the will of the stars must be followed. Whoever the stars want to give that source can be the owner of that source. For the lamp god, it means, you can only take what I give you, and you can't take it in advance without authorization if I haven't given it to you, even though I originally wanted to give it to you. After doing all this, the Hall of Stars disappeared, and the starry sky returned to its former tranquility, leaving only the star cage blocked by the star chains. This star cage is so big that it contains the entire country of disorder. It replaced the original location of Cayster County and became a brand new area. The surging power of the country of disorder can no longer be stirred out, and it can only stay in the star cage honestly. In the end, you still see the most thoroughly. Will ended the form of Mercury Snake, turned into human form again, greeted the goddess of night and other allies, and disappeared. The goddess of night looked at the country of disorder sealed by the stars again, sighed, and chose to return to her kingdom of God. The original witch and Steam also left separately without staying here. Is the power of the star seal really comparable to the Lord of Mystery? Some outer gods did not believe this and began to hit the star cage frantically, but like a weak ant hitting a steel plate, they were almost bounced out. Only the powerful outer gods such as the fallen Mother Goddess and the Mother Tree of Desire can see the exquisiteness of the seal set by the stars. Although the dozens of star chains have been hidden, but they are connected to the starry sky above their heads. In other words, this is a seal set by the power of the entire starry sky. Unless their power can shake this starry sky, it is possible to break the seal of the stars. But their strength is limited to around sequence 1, not even sequence 0, and they do not have the power to shake the starry sky at all. In addition, the current Hall of Stars is still firmly in the starry sky. Unless God and the Lord of Mysteries wake up and return completely, they can forcibly shake the starry sky and open the seal. It can be said that the seal set by the stars is not inferior to the original Lord of Mysteries. At least before the end of the world, within the initial barrier. This is just the beginning. Stars, how many seals can you set? The fallen Mother Goddess murmured, her figure disappeared into the black abyss, and the powerful outer gods such as the Ring of Fate and the Unextinguished Whisper also left one after another. The outer gods such as the Mother Tree of Desire, who had never appeared, looked at the Son of Chaos who was sealed in the cage of the stars with envy. It can be said that the Son of Chaos made the right bet this time. He did not call on the Kingdom of Disorder, but suppressed the actions of the Kingdom of Disorder, winning the final victory for himself. The seal set by the stars allowed him to stay in the Kingdom of Disorder with peace of mind, enough for him to regain control of the Kingdom of Disorder before the end of the world. Once the end of the world comes and the initial barrier is broken, he can immediately restore his complete self. In this way, the Son of Chaos is the first outer god in the starry sky to take back his essence. It can be expected that at the next meeting of the stars, the tail of the lamp god will definitely be up to the sky. The will of the stars. The Mother Tree of Desire looked up at the starry sky and vaguely felt a palpitation coming from above. His shadow world is still sealed in the western continent by the Lord of Mysteries. Although some breath has leaked out at present, it is still a long way from being out of the seal. Unless the Lord of Mysteries is willing to help. But the Lord of Mysteries can only let the source material get rid of the old seal and descend into the real world, but cannot decide the final ownership of the source material. This is the authority of the stars now, and the stars and the Lord of Mysteries are hostile to each other. In the era of stars, this sentence really sums it up very well. The Mother Tree of Desire sighed heavily. After this test, I believe that the Lord of Mysteries will not easily unseal the remaining source material, otherwise it will be used by the stars to establish their prestige in vain. Don't worry so much, aren't you also a member of the Star Conference? Are you willing to be under the stars like the Son of Chaos? The Mother Tree of Desire asked back, making the decayed king smile without saying a word. Follow the will of the stars. This is something that even God and the secrets cannot make me follow. The superstar overlord chuckled and chose to leave, and the Mother Tree of Desire and the King of Decay also stayed away from here. As for the glorious hunter, he had just hunted down an outer god Old One and was now chasing another prey. Most of the outer god Old Ones chose to leave, and a few of them, in the form of humans, went around the star cage to study. Although the Kingdom of Disorder is very tempting, the power of the stars is also fascinating. Tisk, the lamp god guy really knows how to stand in line. Russell, who came from Trier, appeared beside Bernadette and sighed from the bottom of his heart. Following the will of the stars is his best solution. Bernadette looked up at the starry sky and praised the stars again. Russell was obviously annoyed. The matter has come to an end. Do you want to sit with me? I still have a lot of things to deal with. It's really boring. Russell curled his lips and left. Bernadette took a last look at the lamp god sealed in the cage of the stars and left here silently. Praise the stars. The law enforcers of the Church of the Stars also left quietly, and everything returned to the peace of the past. Trier, because a large number of residents of Caister County were teleported by the outer gods, the entire capital was unprecedentedly crowded. This made Russell quickly order the construction of 2 new temporary habitats outside the capital in the name of Roger Gustav. But with a population of more than 100,000, it quickly filled up all the places where people could settle. Russell hurriedly united the personnel of the Steam Church and built 3 new temporary habitats outside the city. Then he planned a large piece of land near the capital Trier to build an outer city to accommodate these residents from Caister County. The housing problem was temporarily solved, but food, people's whereabouts, public security management, a series of problems are still very serious. After a busy month, Russell temporarily solved the chaos caused by the residents of Kester parachuting into Trier. Russell, who was lying on the bed for a day, had the leisure to attend the meeting of the Curly Baboon Research Association, which he had not shown up for 2 times. Dong dong dong. Miss Frank knocked on the table with her right hand, and talked about her pen pal with a serious look. During this period of time, she still did not receive the letter, but the person who sent the letter clearly stated that the letter had been delivered to the village called Korsch. I plan to take this opportunity to go there in person. Who of you has time to go with me? Miss Frank looked at several members of the Curly-Haired Baboon Research Society and saw that no one seemed willing to take the initiative to participate. She emphasized her tone and said, after all, she is also a member of our Curly-Haired Baboon Research Society. Now that she has encountered problems, we should help her and help each other. This is also the original intention of our establishment of the Curly-Haired Baboon Research Society. Robert touched his nose and said awkwardly, you also know that because of the residents of Caister County, I, as the staff of Governor Roger, have no chance to leave Trier. The other members also had their own reasons. Russell was not interested in traveling far now, so he encouraged and suggested that the guest without a face, Claude, to follow Miss Frank. Then let's do it. Tomorrow morning at 9:20, you will wait for me in the number 2 waiting room of the steam train station, and then we will go to the village of Kirsch together. Seeing that Claude did not refuse at the first time, Miss Frank immediately decided on this matter. Russell, who facilitated this matter, laughed. Claude just glanced at him, and a smile appeared on his face that made him feel bad. At 9 o'clock the next morning, Claude wore a coffee-colored double-breasted jacket, a light-colored vest inside, a sleek and bright silver chain on his vest, a silk top hat, gray gloves, a dark gray tie, a gold buckle on his collar, pince-nez, a cane, etc. Miss Frank, who got off the carriage and rushed to the number 2 waiting room, was stunned for a long time when she saw Claude in front of her. In the past, when he met, Claude always dressed like a middle-class worker who was above the worker and below the rich, but today he sat there quietly waiting, but there was an indescribable nobleness. To be precise, this set of clothes did not match his temperament. Popular clothes are always less exquisite than private customization, and his cane should also be inlaid with a more dazzling gem. Mr. Claude, I've kept you waiting for a long time. I just came a short time ago, and I haven't even had a cigarette yet. Claude stood up and greeted with a smile. I have already bought the ticket in advance, and we can leave in 10 minutes. Everything is arranged by Miss Frank. Miss Frank nodded, and chatted with Mr. Claude while waiting for the train. She felt that even if she had overestimated this Wushonk, she still underestimated him. He seemed to be the same age as herself, but he had the wisdom of an older man who seemed to see through all the world. When talking about some problems and knowledge, he also showed amazing erudition. In this regard, he was fundamentally different from the innocent boy. Although the other boy was also very knowledgeable, he was a lively person and sometimes liked to play pranks, just like a mischievous young man. At 9:40, Claude, holding a cane in one hand and a suitcase in the other, followed Miss Frank to successfully board the steam train and headed to a city close to the village of Kirsch. Because Kirsch village is relatively remote, the neighboring cities are not on the fixed line of the steam station, and they need to transfer to reach it. In recent years, due to the improvement of technology, the speed of steam trains in Intis has also increased a lot. It is said that they are preparing to make a tram that only uses electricity, which can be even faster. A few days later, the two got off the steam train and transferred to the city closest to Kirsch village, then bought a horse-drawn carriage there and headed to Kirsch village along the Lois road. On the way, Claude was responsible for driving, and Miss Frank sat in the carriage. When there were only 2 people left, the conversation became more casual. Mr. Claude, what did you do before you came to this era? Freelancer. Claude added, those who make a living on the internet can also be regarded as online beggars in the new era. They need to rely on others' patronage to earn some living expenses to maintain their lives. That's great, at least I don't have to experience the 996 social life. Miss Frank looked envious. Claude drove the carriage on the increasingly muddy road and chuckled, it's hard to have both stability and freedom, unless your family has a mine. My family conditions are okay. They want to arrange for me to work in a state-owned enterprise or a bank, but I still found a job on my own, wanting to prove myself and let my family see that my hobbies are also a good way to make a living. After all, I also spent 4 years in college, but after only a few months of work, I began to feel bored with it all. Miss Frank seemed to be trapped in some kind of memory and began to talk about her life in the original world. The carriage slowly moved on the muddy road, and whispers of reminiscence came out of the carriage. Sometimes I want to travel, but I don't have enough time. I can only take a car to and from work during a 1 or 2 day vacation. It's too tiring. In the end, I choose to stay in the dormitory every time I have a vacation, order takeout, and then lie on the soft bed from morning to night, occasionally watching TV series. I have thought about whether to quit my job and run away, but I feel too unwilling to give up, and I don't want to make fun of my family, so I gritted my teeth and persisted for a year. In fact, I planned to quit after the Chinese New Year, but I didn't have time. Sometimes I feel that what is the purpose of studying for so many years, it seems to be useless. When I come out to work, the ideal and reality are too separated, too painful. Life is the end. Did you come here just to experience all kinds of pain? Quote, when I came to this world, I was indeed confused and afraid at first, but I also felt a sense of relief, and even secretly happy about it in my heart. People always have a beautiful dream of being able to start over, or a sudden major change that changes the trajectory of their lives. The nagging words were more like talking to herself than talking. I seem to have said too much. I'm really sorry, Mr. Claude. After saying that, she laughed again. After coming to this world for a few years, even the way I speak has been stained with a translation accent. We're here. Outside the carriage, Claude had already seen the village in front of him. The village called Kur. Just a glance from a distance, he could see that there was an unusual flow of fate there. The fate that originally flowed forward normally was confined in the small village, forming a small cycle. If there was no external help, it would be difficult for people living in it to break the cycle of fate by their own strength. The circle of fate, it should be him. Arriving at the entrance of the passbook of the village of Korsh, the horse neighed and shook up and down, not wanting to go on. Claude got off the carriage, comforted the horse, and tied the horse to a nearby tree after Miss Frank got off. Let's go, solve the problem early, and leave early. Well, I hope nothing will happen to her. Miss Frank followed Claude with a serious face and walked into the village. As soon as she stepped in, she felt as if a cold wind blew through her soul, making her whole body tremble. She asked Claude if he had the same feeling, but the answer was no. You, strangers, are you looking for someone here? Not long after Claude and Miss Frank entered the village, a 1.7-meter tall, brown-haired, brown-eyed, ordinary-looking young man drove sheep and looked at them curiously. Looking for a friend, can you guide us to a hotel where we can stay tonight? Miss Frank asked politely. I am happy to serve you, but I need to serve our sheep first. The young man showed an apologetic expression, and then pointed out where Claude and his partner would stay that night. Has anything strange happened here recently? Miss Frank asked again before leaving. Strange things. A lot of outsiders come here, right? The young man shook his head, thought for a while and smiled. Recently our village is holding Lent, and there are spring elves doing blessing parades, which is very lively. After a brief conversation, Claude and his partner said goodbye to the young man and went to the hotel he pointed out. On the way, they also met a lot of villagers, who only occasionally cast curious glances, and there was nothing else unusual. It's called a hotel, but it's actually an old tavern, and it's also the only place in this small village where outsiders can stay. When Claude and his partner opened 2 rooms and went upstairs, the young man muttered, there are too many outsiders recently. I really don't know why they come from the city to join in the fun in such a place. Dong dong dong. Claude had just made his bed and put his coat on the hanger when there was a knock on the door. It was Miss Frank. After opening the door, Miss Frank closed it and lowered her voice, saying, I just saw a very strange lady. She is also a traveler to this old tavern like us. I just had a brief conversation with her. She seemed to be able to see through my origins and told me to be careful not to get involved in unnecessary troubles. Mysterious villages and mysterious events will naturally attract mysterious people. This is a kind of attraction and aggregation phenomenon. Claude paused and said, her advice is a kind of reminder. I think so too. Miss Frank nodded. The more this is the case, the more worried I am about Miss Muggle's situation. She is still alive and nothing has happened. Is this also a kind of divination? Fortune tellers are always prone to receive a little revelation from fate in advance. What a magical way. Miss Frank chatted for a few more words and returned to her room. Claude closed the door again and took out a set of hand-cranked small grinders from the suitcase. This is a new product from Intis. It allows travelers to taste the flavor of coffee from their hometown at all times. It is small in size and can be disassembled and assembled, which is very convenient. Disassembly and assembly. This concept is very popular in Intis, especially in the capital Trier, where many new products such as folding bicycles, lazy travel sofas, simple camping tents, etc., which can improve daily life, have appeared. Boom, boom. The uninvited heavy rain brought the night one step ahead of time. Even with the closed windows, cold winds still came in through the not-so-tight holes, blowing the candlelight gently. Claude sat at the table, tasting his hand-ground coffee, adding milk and sugar provided by the tavern, and flipping through the newspapers of the small village a few months ago. Dong dong dong. The door was knocked again, and Claude put down the newspaper and opened the door. This time the person who came was not Miss Frank, but the foreign lady she mentioned. She wore a goose-yellow stand-up collar long dress with ruffles and a light-colored lady's frilly hat. She had a delicate face and an elegant and mature temperament. Claude smiled and said, although I have a certain degree of confidence in my charm, I have never imagined such an encounter. Do men in Intis always like to talk about matters between men and women? Besides fighting, our favorite thing is to communicate with beautiful people of the opposite sex, especially when it is difficult to fall asleep at night. Claude invited the lady in and then closed the door. You really need to learn from those nobles in Loen. They are better at superficial work than you, and it is not easy to scare away the opposite sex at once. Hypocrisy is what we hate most. Sincere and frank words and deeds are the sun in our hearts. The lady glanced at the room and raised her eyebrows slightly, saying, Sir, can you tell me your true origins? You came to ask directly instead of hiding in the dark. Aren't you afraid that I am a bad person? Flowers walking in the dark are always thorny, and everyone who wants to touch her will pay the price of blood. Claude looked her up and down and shook his head, saying, You are not suitable for saying such things. The lady's eyes changed slightly, and she looked at Claude more seriously. Before she could speak, Claude explained the whole reason why he came to this village. You still haven't answered your true identity. My beautiful lady, you haven't honestly introduced yourself since you entered the door. I'm from the Tarot Club. What a coincidence, Claude said in surprise. I'm from the Curly-Haired Baboon Research Society. Quote. Furs always felt that the other party was making fun of her. He seemed to know her and was very familiar with her personality. She also felt that the other party had a familiar and friendly feeling, so she chose such a direct way of contact. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. The Curly Baboon Research Society, is your president the mysterious figure codenamed Gandalf? No, we are just a small group in Trier, we just have the same name. Is it just right? Forsy's eyes narrowed slightly and he said tentatively, There are not many people who I can't see through directly, let alone you are still so young. Madam, in the world of occultism, appearance is usually deceptive, and everyone tends to like their younger selves. Forsy just smiled and nodded. I am a traveler who accompanied a friend here to find her companion. You don't need to mind my origin. I will not become your enemy. Claude mentioned this and poured Forsy a cup of hand-ground coffee. Can I believe you? Just like this cup of coffee, if you don't taste it yourself, you can't know its specific taste, even if it smells very fragrant. Forsy picked up the coffee and pointed out. You can taste it. I'm still somewhat confident in my craftsmanship. Forsy glanced at the steaming and fragrant coffee, chose to try it, and took a sip. It was only a small sip, and she was stunned in place. Sorry, I forgot to put milk and sugar in this cup of coffee. Of course, if you like the original flavor, it tastes just right. There is no more pure hand-ground coffee than this. Forsy just looked at him deeply, said nothing, put down the coffee, then turned around and left gracefully. After leaving the room, Forsy's mouth twitched slightly, and there was still a taste on the tip of his tongue that was so bitter that it made him tingle and he was about to spit it out. This coffee was too strong. Ahead, the door to the corner room opened, and Miss Frank quietly poked her head out. Forsy's face instantly returned to normal, he smiled at her and nodded before returning to his room. Forsy, who was alone, resisted the urge to open the door of travel and return to the Star Sea Kingdom to taste desserts. He drank several glasses of water to dilute the bitter taste on his tongue. I seemed to believe what he said, and I almost didn't even have basic defenses. After coming back to her senses, Forsy began to think about her behavior of drinking coffee just now. Logically speaking, based on her years of adventure experience, she would not easily drink something handed to her by a stranger, but just now, she had no idea of refusal in her heart. Could he be the angel of the path of judgment? Only a sequence 2 or above judgment path extraordinary can make her listen to the other party's words unconsciously. Or do I have complete trust in him? Forsy stared at the flickering candlelight and thought for a long time, then smiled, narrowed his eyes, and looked excited, as if he had found a correct answer. She came to the window, opened it, looked at the rainstorm that was still raging, prayed devoutly to the stars again, and told what she had encountered tonight. Then, she saw the starry sky covered by the dark night and heavy rain twinkling. The heavy rain began to subside, the dark clouds began to recede, and the bright stars began to take over the starry sky tonight. Is this a revelation from the stars? Forsy frowned, humming a tune, and immediately gave up the idea of returning to the Star Sea Kingdom recently. Under the starry sky that replaced the torrential rain, Auror, who had not yet fallen asleep, opened the window and sprinkled silver light dust. Her body floated up and flew to the roof, where she stood and looked up at the suddenly brilliant starry sky tonight. There shouldn't be such a bright starry sky tonight, but as a believer in the stars, she could still vaguely notice it. Could it be that the stars have sent down divine revelations to tell me that all hardships and dangers are only temporary, that the heavy rain will eventually dissipate, and that the stars will shine on the earth forever? Aurora whispered. Her expression became more pious, and after praising the stars, her eyes swept towards the Kolsch village under the starlight. Perhaps because of the starlight, she saw some key places that she had not discovered on ordinary days, especially the church belonging to the Eternal Sun Church in the village. There seems to be an aura that does not belong to this world lingering there. Is that the source of all the recent strange events? When Aurora wanted to see more clearly, she heard suppressed and unconscious sounds coming from Lumien's room. He is dreaming again, and he was still experiencing some kind of dangerous adventure in his dream. Aurora sighed and felt that she should leave here early and go to Trier to find a suitable hypnotist to solve Lumien's dream problem. The sun, which always arrived as scheduled, rose again from the opposite side of the mountain. The dazzling sunlight shone on Lumien's face, forcing him to stretch and stand up. The harvest last night was not bad, but it was not enough. This power is not enough to protect Aurora. I need more powerful power. Those 3 outsiders should be trustworthy. If you want to solve the problems in the village, you must rely on their strength. It's a pity that the lady didn't want to help, otherwise the fate cycle problem in the village would have been easily solved. Various thoughts swirled in Lumien's mind. He patted his face and went to wash and brush his teeth first. Aurora got up early today, had already prepared breakfast, and then wanted to go out for the first time. Lumien, who sat down on the dining chair and held a piece of white bread without any image, was surprised. Aurora, why do you want to go out today? Eat the food in your mouth first before you speak. Okay, Aurora. Lumien finished the white bread in 3 bites, drank a glass of milk, stood up and wiped the crumbs from the corner of his mouth with a tissue, and said with a smile, Aurora, I've finished eating. Can you tell me now? Don't you always dislike going out? The starry sky last night gave me a little inspiration. So, I plan to go to the church. Lumien said anxiously. I want to go with you too. That bastard has been trying to get you. I'm worried. Aurora thought for a while and agreed to let Lumien go with him. If something really happened, they could take care of each other. As soon as he went out, Lumien met his friend Raymond. After saying hello, Raymond told him that 2 strangers came to the village yesterday, 1 man and 1 woman, and they were obviously from the big city. Raymond also showed off a golden falcon, which was the reward for asking for directions yesterday. If it were normal times, Lumien might have used his eloquence to get Raymond to treat him to a big drink at the tavern, but today he really had no interest in that. He only cared about why Aurora was going to the church. Obviously, in the previous cycle of fate, Aurora did not take the initiative to go to the church. There were also 2 new strangers, which was also a new change. Could it be that the arrival of strangers caused Aurora's behavior to deviate from the original track? Lumien wanted to explore the origins of the 2 strangers. But Aurora was already walking towards the church, so he could only ask Raymond to help him find out about the details of the 2 strangers, and he quickly caught up with Aurora. When Raymond came to the old tavern, he happened to run into the strangers, a man and a woman, who were also walking towards the church yesterday, and there was also a mysterious lady from a big city in Lumien's words. He thought for a while on the spot, but chose to catch up quickly, wanting to pretend to meet by chance, and then provide some help to the 2 strangers, and strive to get another fell gold. Are you going to the local church? Raymond said with a familiar look. I just have time, I can show you the way. That's troublesome. Miss Frank smiled and nodded. Claude finished the divination just now. Furs smiled and watched Claude's every move with interest. On the way to the church, in order to show his value, Raymond explained everything about the church and the priest clearly, and also mentioned many people's views on the church and the priest. This is what Lumien taught him. If you want to make money, you must first show your value. Soon after, the stained glass of the church shone in the sun, as if it was shrouded in glory and full of sacred colors. Thank you for your guidance and introduction. Miss Frank thanked him politely, and then paid him another falcon as a reward in Raymond's eager eyes. Raymond left with a happy grin. Mr. Claude, can I really meet my good friend here? The result of divination will not lie. Claude smiled and added in his mind that divination will not lie, but there will be deviations and errors occasionally. Fortunately, my divination will not lie. Cordu village is a remote, relatively poor and backward village, where many customs inherited from ancient times are still preserved. Every year on April 5th, during Lent, the village will select a beautiful unmarried girl to play the role of a spring spirit and travel around to bless. This is a rare honor. The person in charge of presiding over this festival is the local priest Guillaume Benet of the Eternal Sun Church. At this moment, he was yawning and got up from the bed where he had fought hard last night. After a little washing and dressing, he came to the church from the inner hall to play his role as a good priest. When he saw Lumion, the bastard, appear in the church openly, his face sank, and he gave a few instructions to the attendant beside him, asking him to find some people to hide nearby to block the bastard, and then teach him a lesson, and it would be best if he could throw the bastard into the river to feed the fish. The last prank almost made his lower body lose its function forever. Fortunately, he took some medicine, and with the help of his charming mistress, he was able to regain his vigor. In the church, he didn't want to pay attention to Lumion, the bastard, but when he saw Auror coming from behind, his eyes were aroused, and he changed his mind, adjusted his manners, and walked towards Auror with a warm smile. Although there were many outsiders in the whole Cordu village, the most dazzling one was Auror. Her golden hair color, bright and beautiful face, and graceful figure made her the most beautiful woman in Cordu village and even in several nearby towns. Oh, you can still walk normally. I thought you would have to walk with your legs together in the future. Seeing Guillaume approaching, Lumion quickly blocked in front of Auror, and glanced at Guillaume's lower body with a teasing smile. The meaning was very clear. The sun's glory always blesses its devout believers. Guillaume just laughed, looking past the annoying Lumion to the beautiful Auror. Gold is the purest color, only Miss Auror can have such brilliant and dazzling golden hair. He looked at it for less than 2 seconds, and Lumion moved sideways to block his prying sight, and said with disdain, Emperor Russell once said this, those who are attentive to others for no reason are either treacherous or thieves. It seems that our priest also fits the description of this sentence. It is human nature to appreciate beauty. I think the gods will also praise and bless a dazzling woman like Miss Auror. Hee, you speak in the name of the gods every day. If the gods really have spirits, the first person to be killed should be you, an impious believer. Lumion, don't be so rude to the parish priest. Auror spoke to stop Lumion from continuing to ridicule, and Lumion snorted and reluctantly shut up. Guillaume laughed and said, Miss Auror is kind and polite. I wonder if Miss Auror would mind if I take you to visit the church. Yes, Lumion couldn't help but said, you don't need to be so attentive. I will take Auror to visit the church. If it's convenient, you can open the door of the rendezvous place and let us visit it by the way. Guillaume ignored Lumion's provocation and focused his eyes on Auror, who was 2 meters away. His fiery eyes were no longer concealed. Auror was about to agree. She came to the church today to investigate the strangeness here, but before she could say anything, a voice with a little surprise and joy came from behind. Miss Muggle. Auror trembled slightly, turned around and looked behind her, and saw a girl who was obviously of noble origin greeting her. Miss Owl. Auror was also a little uncertain. They had described each other's appearance in letters, but they had never really met. They were purely pen pals. It's me. I finally found you. Miss Frank smiled and took 2 quick steps to Auror. She took her hand and said with a smile, I haven't replied to you for so long. I'm really afraid that something might happen to you, so I came here from Trier to find you. You came from Trier? Yes, with a friend of mine. Miss Frank took Auror's hand and introduced Claude. This is Mr. Claude. He accompanied me all the way from Trier to here. Thank you for your hard work. Auror suppressed her excitement and smiled at Lumion. This is my brother Lumion who I mentioned to you in the letter. He's not my real brother. I don't need to mention him every time I introduce him. Lumion whispered back, then looked at Furs beside him and raised his eyebrows slightly. That means, I once asked you for help, and you said you wouldn't help me. Why are you here today? Furs didn't answer, but looked at everything in the church at leisure. Miss Auror, are these all your friends? Guillaume also came over to get familiar with them. After seeing the true appearance of Frank and Furs, his eyes were obviously dull for a few seconds, and then he introduced more enthusiastically, I am the parish priest Guillaume Bennett, a good friend of Miss Auror. If you encounter any problems here, you can come to me for help. Bah, you are not worthy of being Auror's good friend. Lumion spat in dissatisfaction, with a face full of sarcasm. Guillaume automatically ignored Lumion's words and invited Auror, Frank and Furs to visit the church. Claude, who had not spoken at this time, looked at the statue in the center of the church and said, "Has the brilliance of the sun ever shined here?" "Of course." Guillaume puffed up his chest proudly and said in a calm and pious tone, "The sacred sun's rays have always been shining here. All year round, there is no day off. We are always bathed in the gift of the sun's golden rays." Quote. Claude nodded, his eyes falling on Guillaume. "Then why can you still serve as the priest of the Eternal Sun Church?" Quote. Exclamation mark. Quote. Guillaume choked up for a moment. The topic was changed so abruptly that he was a little confused. He naturally relied on shameless methods to serve the noble lords in the city, and then was promoted to this position. Lumion gloated, "Because I am a devout believer in the sun and a priest approved by the bishops of the Eternal Sun Church." Guillaume argued with a red face. "The sun's radiance does not recognize you." Claude looked up at the sunlight coming through the stained glass on the top of the church and murmured, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Guillaume was inexplicably panicked. He looked at Aurore and pretended to be angry. "Ms. Aurore, even your friend cannot casually insult a highly respected priest in the church." Quote. "That bullshit is highly respected." Lumion sneered mercilessly. "You see, the radiance of the sun recognizes me even more." Claude just raised his hand slightly, and the radiance of the surrounding sun gathered together, and a small sun shone with dazzling light suspended above the palm of his right hand. "What a warm light," Miss Frank praised, and Aurore and Foresee also felt the same way. Only Lumion and Guillaume had different feelings. It was too dazzling, as if being pricked by a needle. Lumion felt the light for a while, then retreated into Aurore's shadow, and then felt better. As for Guillaume, his complexion kept changing, from red to purple to black, and his whole body was shaking, as if he was suppressing something. It wasn't until a wisp of black smoke emerged from his body that he roared like a cornered beast, shattering the glass of the entire church. At the same time, the black smoke billowed, trying to wipe out the dazzling sun on Claude's hand. "Put out." "I'm right, the sun's brilliance has never recognized you." Claude spoke slowly, holding a golden sun in his hand. At this moment, he looked like an angel or god punishing evil spirits in the story. Aurore and Lumion looked at him with a layer of respect, yearning and shock. "You really deserve to die," Guillaume said angrily. "The radiance of the divine sun will punish all evil beings." After Claude finished speaking righteously, he frowned and took a skillful step back. He naturally hid behind Foresee, allowing Foresee to face the angry offensive from Guillaume. Quote. 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 Foresee was stunned for a while, and then smiled softly. A white door was isolated in front of him, protecting Aurore, Lumion and others. At the same time, with a tap of his index finger, all other unrelated people in the church were sent out of the church. "It's so shameless. As a grown man, how could you let this beautiful lady face such a dangerous bastard alone?" Lumion cursed with a serious face, then took Aurore's arm and hurriedly brought her behind Foresee. At the same time, he whispered to Aurore, "She should be very strong, Guillaume, this bastard is definitely no match for her." Quote. Aurore did not speak, but stretched out his hand to pull Miss Frank to her side, and they stayed behind Foresee. Quote. Miss Frank's cheeks were slightly hot, but she also lowered her head and silently let the mysterious lady in front of her, whom she had known for a short time, face this unexpected incident. Because just the aura that Guillaume exuded just now was beyond what she could handle. "Originally, I wanted to wait for this matter to end on its own before I came out to clean up the mess, but you were really unlucky." When Foresee spoke, he glanced sideways at Claude and Lumion, and then cast a series of exquisite spells around him, spontaneously pressing down on Guillaume. No skills required, just pure brute force. Guillaume frantically wanted to get rid of this situation, but his body was shrouded in a steady stream of flames, strong winds, thunder, curses, and imprisonment, and was finally nailed to the golden sun emblem of the eternal sun in the center of the church. Golden sunlight fell through the broken glass window, and the dazzling light was like a flame, wrapping around his body and completely burning the priest to ashes. Finally, it dispersed into a ball of watered-down smoke. "Is this the end?" Lumion blinked, looking at the scene in front of him with a blank expression, and suddenly felt an uncomfortable and incoordinated feeling in his heart. The story should not develop like this, as if a big rock suddenly smashed in, smashing everything that was originally woven into a mess. But he really couldn't tell the source of this strange feeling. He just felt that it shouldn't be like this and that this was an incorrect development. Surprised, 4C clapped his hands, turned around, and looked at Lumion with his eyes like a mirror emitting cold light. Lumion shook his head and said, I always knew you had the ability to solve this matter. But this matter should not be solved by me. I am just a witness. 4C spoke calmly, looking at Lumion with a little pity in his eyes, you are the one who should solve this matter. Because all of this originated from you, including the time loop you experienced. Quote, Lumion was so frightened that the biggest secret in his heart was revealed. He took a few steps back and looked at 4C with a look of horror, confusion and disbelief. In your perception, you should have experienced several time reincarnations, right? It's just that you haven't been able to touch the final truth, and you can't save those who sacrificed again and again, right? Quote. Lumion took a step back again, finding it difficult to stand still. Lumion, what's wrong with you? Auror reached out to support Lumion and looked at him with concern. Lumion stood still with difficulty and was silent for a long time. Then in a voice that was almost broken, he said with a forced smile, Auror, you must have forgotten that I once told you that I saw people in the village on Lent. People are going crazy, and Ava, who was chosen as the spring spirit, was also killed. That's what I told you after experiencing the first time loop. You told me at that time that there were still a few days until Lent, so I looked at the calendar and asked other people, and for a while I thought it was me who was having a nightmare. You know, my brain, my spirit. Something is not normal, but when I experienced it again, I understood that I was not crazy or having nightmares. I had indeed gone back to the past and started a new time loop. I have experienced what I have experienced these days more than once. I feel like I am trapped in a time loop. Every few days, time will be reversed and everything will start again. I want to find out the source of all this, and I want to prevent people in the village from dying. I also want to take you to escape from the village, but I end in failure every time. Lumion covered his head in pain and began to recall and talk about his experiences in the past few days. During the cycle, he was the only one who still retained clear memories. The unspeakable feeling was too painful, especially when he saw those who were about to die, but he had no way to save them. I really don't remember. Auror recalled it carefully several times to confirm that she had not misremembered what happened in the past few days. I am the only one who still remembers. Lumion said with a bitter look on his face, mocking himself, but I have never been able to touch the source of all this. Even now, the bastard priest who is suspected to be the murderer behind the scenes is dead, and I am not sure. Will time go back to the past and everything will start again? So do you want to go back? 4C asked with a smile. Lumion smiled helplessly. That's not something I can decide. That's something you can decide for yourself. When your subconscious mind thinks that time will be restarted, a new time cycle will start again. 4C's tone suddenly became heavy. Me? Are you kidding me? How could I have the ability to manipulate time and turn it back? Lumion was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly. Aren't you always good at dreaming? You mean, this is my reincarnation in the dream? Lumion understood something, and said very puzzledly, if this is a dream that I can control, how come you are in my dream today? I don't even know these two strangers who came to the village, how could I imagine their appearance and names? Powerful dreams can interact with reality. 4C patiently answered and explained Lumion's doubts, while pretending to be dissatisfied and glanced at Claude, who was listening attentively. He obviously wanted to wait for Lumion to discover that the source of all this came from him, and let him find out the whole truth on his own, and then he would come out to clean up the situation. Rather than like now, it takes a lot of thought and words to force Lumion to understand the truth of all this. Although I admire your attainments in mysticism and know that you are a very powerful, extraordinary person, I still cannot accept your statement. It is too exaggerated and not realistic at all. Lumion shook his head in denial. Understand the various opinions 4C said. Auror also nodded and said, this statement is indeed too unbelievable. Lumion does not have such power at all, even in a dream. 4C glanced at her and sighed, what if you helped him obtain this power? Quote. Auror frowned, I can't understand what you're saying more and more. I don't remember anything like this happening at all. After thinking for a while, Auror hesitated and said, unless what you are talking about happens in the future before the time cycle has started. 4C chuckled, your ability to accept and understand is indeed very good. What a pity. What's a pity? 4C thought for a moment, sighed and said nothing more. She couldn't say that the other person was actually dead, so Lumion, who couldn't accept the reality, kept starting time loops again and again in the dream, trying to find a way to keep Aurora alive. Ah, what a hassle. This matter was already very troublesome and difficult to deal with, but this person who claimed to be Mr. Claude appeared again, forcing her to take action to deal with the situation in advance. Mr. Claude, what do you think about this matter? Foresee decided to leave this issue to him to decide, so that he could save some worries. Miss Frank, who looked confused after hearing this, Aurora, who felt heavy-hearted, and Lumion, who had self-doubt, all looked over at the same time. It's very simple. Claude smiled and said, let Mr. Lumion restart the time loop again. Wouldn't it be possible to successfully verify it? I don't have that ability at all. Lumion shouted loudly, and suddenly his head began to hurt violently. Everything he saw in front of him was fragmented and became extremely dark. He was very familiar with this scene. He would feel this way every time he started the time loop. Pain. It hurts. Lumion sat up suddenly, opened his eyes, and rubbed his head. Immediately, he saw the wooden table in front of the window, the chairs placed at an angle, and the wardrobes and small bookshelves on both sides. He is familiar with everything here. This is his bedroom. It is the place where he wakes up after starting a new time loop. Did he really go back to the past again and start a new time loop? Snap, snap. Lumion first slapped himself lightly, feeling the slight touch, and then slapped himself twice more, almost screaming out in pain. The pain didn't seem fake, and he didn't wake up again, which proved that he was now in the real world. Aurora. Lumion immediately turned over and got out of bed, covering his right cheek that was almost swollen from being slapped, and rushed into the kitchen on the first floor. Sure enough, Aurora was still here, in the same position as in the previous time loops. Aurora was wearing a light blue dress and preparing dinner for tonight. Great, Aurora is still here, so good. Seeing Aurora as usual, Lumion's panic settled down instantly. He was really afraid that because of the sudden arrival of the two outsiders and the mysterious lady's action, everything would change out of his familiarity. If I could really control dreams and keep looping time, it would actually be great. At least, Aurora was not hurt. Lumion leaned against the kitchen door frame, and suddenly such an idea came to his mind. But dreams are dreams after all, and you always have to wake up. Although he understood this truth very well, Lumion rejected it in his heart. An indescribable panic filled his heart, making him dare not think about what happened in the real reality. He was afraid that there would be some pain in reality that he could not bear, so he hid himself in the dream. Lumion shook his head and dared not think about it anymore. Lumion, you come back so early today, you have to wait a while before dinner. Yes, I know, Aurora. Remember to call me sister. Aurora waved the shovel in her hand and pretended to threaten. Okay, Aurora. Lumion smiled happily. The night after dinner, the moonlight was good tonight, and the sky was dotted with stars. Aurora was still admiring the starry sky on the roof. Lumion found her easily and sat quietly beside her. Aren't you going to the tavern tonight? No, it's boring. I heard from the neighbor next door that two strangers came there recently, a man and a woman. Don't you like to join in the fun? Lumion's heart skipped a beat, and the bad feeling in his heart became stronger, but he still smiled. I still like to watch the stars with Aurora. By the way, you told me last time, what is the name of that constellation? I have forgotten it. Lumion changed the subject and pointed to the starry sky. That is Leo, which is brighter in spring and is located south of the Big Dipper. Oh, what about that? That is Ursa Major. On the other side, in the second-floor room of the old tavern, Miss Frank had 6-finger-long pieces of paper stuck on her face. She looked at the remaining 1 on 3 in her hand and muttered, "Why did I lose again? My luck is really bad." It's not that your luck is bad, it's that someone's luck is too good tonight. Furs, who also had 2 pieces of paper stuck on her right cheek, glanced at Claude opposite with a resentful look. I'm just lucky. You know, fortune tellers are always favored by fate. Claude smiled and finished playing the last card in his hand. Ms. Frank, you should put another one on. Quote. Miss Frank was silent for a while, and said with a smile, okay, let's stop here tonight. As she said that, she put her cards into the deck, and Furs also mixed the cards in her hand. I really don't feel like playing anymore. Ms. Furs, is it really okay for us to wait here like this? Don't worry, when Lumion realizes his own problems, the time loop in the dream will naturally be solved. He is so pitiful. Compared to others, he is already very lucky. A trace of compassion flashed in Fur's eyes. Before she came here, the dream cycle had already started, and she could only watch it all as a bystander. Muggle, Miss Orr, she will be fine, right? There are miracles in the mysterious world. Miracles, Miss Frank muttered twice, feeling a little heavy. Miracles may be out of reach for us, but there are always some beings that can grant miracles and change some regrettable things. Furs raised his eyebrows and glanced at Claude. As a fortune teller, I believe in the existence of miracles more than anyone else. Claude smiled. Miss Frank sighed heavily. Alas, when I think that everything here is a dream, it is fictional, it feels very unreal. Get used to it, maybe you will experience more magical and mysterious phenomena in the future. Furs smiled and said, do you want to eat something? I think you should be very hungry. I just had dinner. Hey, after you said that, I suddenly feel very hungry. Because we are at the junction of reality and dreams, the food here cannot give us a real sense of fullness. It can only deceive our various perceptions and give us the illusion of fullness. When I reveal this, you will return from the dream to reality, and the feeling of hunger will follow. It's really magical. Miss Frank sighed, then stood up and said, Ms. Furs, if you want to cook, I can help you. No need. Furs just smiled and shook his head. He opened a travel portal with his right hand and reached out from the transparent light door to take out several freshly prepared and still steaming exquisite dishes. This is the feast that Zio had just prepared to reward himself for a hard day's work. Anyway, it's very convenient for her to eat. It's just a matter of borrowing a few dishes. At most, he will return the plates to her later. What a great and convenient ability. Miss Frank was shocked by Furz's magical ability at first, and then her eyes were full of stars and her face was full of envy. It tastes good, it's pure Intis flavor. Claude on the other side had already started to eat and commented. Mr. Claude, you don't seem to be shocked at all by the ability I showed. Furs said with a smile. Ah, I forgot, it's really great. Claude clapped and smiled. My attention was attracted by the food just now, I'm so sorry. Miss Frank looked at Furs and Claude suspiciously, and always felt that the relationship between the two of them was inexplicably close. Ms. Furs, Mr. Claude, have you met before? I think so. I feel very familiar. What do you think, Mr. Claude? Furs blinked. Time passed little by little. Although Lumion was afraid of touching the truth, when he saw Ava's happy face because she was chosen as the spring elf, he couldn't help but think of how her head was chopped off during the celebration. Even though he knew that this was a dream, he still couldn't remain indifferent. Ava, Lumion tried to say something. Lumion, are you also here to congratulate me for being chosen as the spring elf? Thank you for your blessing. I will also give you good wishes on behalf of the spring elves. Lumion forced a smile and turned away. He didn't look for a way to break the situation anymore, and didn't go to the old tavern to meet the mysterious lady and the two outsiders. He stayed at home every day, accompanying Auror who didn't like to go out. This made Auror suspect that Lumion was mentally ill. In the past, Lumion didn't have the patience to stay at home and listen to her teachings and learn knowledge. He always liked to run outside and do some tricks. Lumion, Auror, I'm fine now. By the way, where did you just talk about? Lumion pretended to be a good student and motioned Auror to continue the class. Lumion, have you caused any big trouble outside recently? I just figured out some things and felt that I should study hard, then get into a good school, and then find a good job in the future. Really? Of course, Auror, when have I ever lied to you? Auror believed this very much, so she put aside her suspicion and continued to teach. The gears of time were still moving forward slowly, and Lent in Cordu village was still here. The streets were bustling with activity. Ava, who had become a spring elf, put on a white dress, a round headdress made of branches and flowers, and a similar giant necklace around her neck. Green leaves were used as embellishments, making her look like a fairy in the forest. This was the protagonist of Lent, the spring elf. Standing at the window on the second floor, Lumion watched this scene silently and smiled knowingly. He knew that he should start the time loop again. Let's say goodbye to Auror first. Lumion closed the window, walked out of the room, and came to the door of the first floor. He saw Auror standing at the door, wearing a light-colored stand-up collar dress and holding a small ceramic jar of animal fat. He stepped forward, hugged Auror gently from behind, and then said silently in his heart, "Time, let's go back to the place where the dream begins." But after waiting for a while, everything in front of him was still the same, there was no fragmented picture, and there was no darkness anomaly. He was still in the same place, without restarting the time loop. That's not right. Isn't this my dream? As long as I want to restart the time loop, will the dream return to March 29th? But why is it malfunctioning now? Lumion, today is Lent, do you want to play another prank? While Lumion was dazed, Auror had already reached out and grabbed Lumion's right ear, exerted a little force, and scolded. I thought you had learned well these days, but it turned out you were holding back a prank. You want to do something for Lent? Ah, Auror, I didn't. Hiss, be gentle, you almost twisted my ears off. The pain in his ears brought Lumion back to reality, leaving him no longer in the mood to think about why he couldn't restart the time loop. It should help you improve your memory. Auror tried a little harder, and when she saw that Lumion's grinning in pain didn't look like he was pretending, she let him go and warned him, don't play pranks during the ceremony. I understand, Auror. Lumion covered his red ears and took 2 steps back. The spring elf parade was gradually approaching here, and Auror had no intention of teaching Lumion a lesson. I am the spirit of spring. She has a sweet and pretty face. Quote. Sing it, dance it. Only in this way can we get a good harvest. Behind him, Raymond and other young people shouted in unison, good harvest. Good harvest. After listening to this with a smile, Auror took a leaf and handed a jar of animal fat to Ava. Thank you, spring spirit. Lumion, who was standing behind him, felt that the bustle in front of him was extremely noisy and annoying at the moment, making it difficult for him to concentrate and think about the reason why he could not start the time loop again. Lumion, don't you like to be busy the most? Why are you hiding at home today? Raymond, who caught a glimpse of Lumion, took a few steps forward and grabbed Lumion's arm. The 2 young men next to him followed suit and pulled Lumion into the blessing parade regardless of Lumion's reluctance. With celebration and joy, the blessing parade, filled with songs, kept knocking on the doors of every villager in Cordu village. On the 2nd floor of the old tavern, through the window next to the window, the 3-4C people also saw the lively scene on the street. This is the spring elf parade during Lent. It doesn't look out of the ordinary. Miss Frank frowned and thought. With her limited occult knowledge, she really couldn't tell any clues. She just felt that the spring elf's costume was pretty good. Yes, quite cute. Demons often show their amiable side before eating people. Furs reminded. Claude said nothing, just smiled and looked at the lively scene below. Should we follow along to watch the fun? On such a wonderful holiday, if we still stay in our rooms, it would be a waste of the opportunity to come here. Seeing Claude's agreement, 4C didn't say anything, and followed Miss Frank downstairs, who was obviously impatient, and followed the team. The parade passed by the administrator's residence, which was transformed from an old castle during the Sauron royal family. It is located on the hill on the edge of Cordu village. It is dark in color and has 2 towers towering on the left and right. The person who came out to greet the spring spirit was Mrs. Pualis. She was wearing a light green waist-length dress, looking noble and reserved. The spring spirit Ava exchanged tree seeds for a basket of eggs, and the parade set off again. Mrs. Pualis watched them leave with an inexplicable smile on her lips. When she caught a glimpse of the 3 furs, her expression suddenly became dull, as if she was stuck in some kind of thinking that she couldn't come up with an answer to. The parade came to the waterside, held a waterside ceremony, and then headed to the Eternal Sun Church. At this time, near noon, most of the villagers in the village had gathered here, including Auror. The Eternal Sun Church, with its arc-shaped dome, is 11 to 2 meters high. From the outside, it looks like it is holding an onion, while looking up from the inside, it is a magnificent mural of the sun. At noon, when the sun should have been at its most dazzling, Lumion felt a coldness that made him shiver all over. It was here, in front of the church, that he saw Pierre chop off Ava's head with an axe. This is where he first started the time loop. He suppressed the uneasy restlessness in his heart, found Auror, and stayed by her side, while being alert to other possible abnormal changes. He wanted to tell Auror that something strange was about to happen here, but he was afraid that his actions would cause different changes. At least this time, he will try his best to protect Auror. But what makes Lumion feel strange is that Lent is gradually coming to an end, and the parish priest Guillaume has never appeared, and Ava has not been killed. The villagers were leaving the church in an orderly manner and returning to their homes. There was nothing unusual about it. What went wrong? Although Guillaume was killed last time, he should have come back to life again as the time cycle restarted. Otherwise, if a priest died, the people in the church would definitely find out. This is unusual, very unusual. Lumion, what are you thinking about? We should go back. Auror patted Lumion on the shoulder and asked in confusion, are you hiding something from me? No, I'm just wondering why that bastard priest didn't show up. Maybe he's sick. I heard about it from other people. That's great, he should be cured. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's go back. Lumion, who was in a more relaxed mood, walked in front. After taking 2 steps, he found that Auror didn't catch up. He turned around to ask about the situation, but found that Auror's light blue eyes became unusually empty and unfamiliar. When Lumion was about to speak, Auror threw the powder made of some kind of tree in her hand at him. Lumion, who forgot to dodge due to shock, had a dark vision and fainted. When he woke up again, it was because of the severe pain from a heavy punch in the abdomen that made him curl up and open his eyes. What came into view was the magnificent murals, the arc-shaped dome, and then the face of the parish priest that made him extremely disgusted. This is the church, and he was caught here. Lumion immediately understood his situation and instinctively began to observe the surroundings. He saw Raymond's father Pierre Clergue, Ava's father Guillaume Lizier, neighbor Louis Badic, and almost all the villagers. He also saw the altar that had been completely changed. There were no sunflowers, but tulips, lilacs and other things that symbolized the secret existence. The emblem of the sun god behind the altar had also disappeared, replaced by an abnormally twisted thorn ring that seemed to have black liquid flowing. The parish priest, they turned the Eternal Sun Church directly into an evil altar that believes in secret existence. Haha, what a blasphemy. Awake. Seeing Lumion wake up, the parish priest looked over, and his gaze was full of smiles, as if he was admiring a newly completed work of art. Where's Auror? Don't worry, you will meet again. Release Auror, I will let you deal with me, don't you just want to use me as a sacrifice? Do you really think you see through everything? The parish priest laughed happily, you were not the vessel I was looking for from the beginning, your sister Auror was. Hearing this, Lumion felt a strong anger and powerlessness in his heart. He wanted to go crazy to stop them from hurting Auror, but he was tied up tightly and couldn't get rid of the restraints. I'll tell you another secret. The parish priest came closer and lowered his voice, you don't really think that you are the only one who can remember the memory of every time cycle. Lumion's struggling movements froze instantly, and the biting coldness from every inch of his body was like a poisonous snake, crawling towards his heart little by little and began to gnaw, making him feel unprecedented coldness and helplessness. Chapter 728 The Great Ring of Fate. The lively day gradually fades away, and dusk embraces the night, ushering in the night sky. The stars are sparse tonight, and gray clouds cover the falling stars, making the whole night even more quiet. Is it okay if we just look at it like this? On a small hill not far from the Eternal Sun Church, Miss Frank held a telescope and watched uneasily what was happening inside the church. Although her knowledge of mysticism was limited, she also knew that evil sacrificial activities were being held in the sacred church that was supposed to be illuminated by the eternal blazing sun. Basically everyone in the village was involved. Lumion was forcibly tied up, and Auror was deprived of her mind and the ability to move freely. This is just Lumion's dream. In other words, this is a fact that has already happened. Even if you take action now, you can't really change anything. 4C explained, we can only be spectators. Understanding this fact, Miss Frank raised her foot and kicked the 2 men and 1 woman who were lying motionless on the ground several times. Just now, these 3 people suddenly found them and wanted to expel them from the village. The mysterious Ms. Furs just waved her hand and easily made the 3 people fall asleep. Miss Muggle, you must last until the end. Miss Frank prayed silently in her heart. At this time, 4C discovered that there was the same trio of people on the other side of the Eternal Sun Church. They were the investigation team that came to investigate the anomalies in Cordu village. The believers of the eternal blazing sun actually have good minds, but it's just a pity. 4C sighed with emotion. Among the members of the major churches she has experienced, the believers of the eternal blazing sun often have a strong sense of justice and a dazzling character like the sun. Unfortunately, the eternal sun has fallen, and today's church of the eternal sun is no longer what it used to be. The brilliance of the sun will always bless those who devoutly pursue the light. Claude whispered something, which made 4C feel something different. The sun, does the true brilliance of the sun still exist? Forsey did not dare to continue to think deeply. In the church, Lumion is completely desperate. The only thing he can do now is to find a way to anger them and make them kill him, so that time may fall into a loop again. Taste the taste of despair in pain, this is your final outcome. The priest laughed and asked someone to hold a rag to cover Lumion's mouth when he wanted to curse loudly. Unable to speak, Lumion glanced into the distance. Auror, who stood still with empty eyes, struggled even harder. He was punched hard in the stomach again, causing him to curl up in pain. Keep an eye on him. After admiring the pain shown in Lumion's eyes for a while, the priest was satisfied and turned away, heading towards the altar. As he went away, the surrounding villagers seemed to come alive and began to discuss different topics in small groups. The constellations are about to change. Yes, once the constellation changes, our destiny will also change, and then we don't need to be farmers all our lives. Our luck is about to come, and we will all make a fortune. I want to find a beautiful woman to marry and have a bunch of kids. I'm going to live in Trier. I heard that it is the most prosperous place in the entire Republic of Intis. Amidst the murmurs of discussion, Lumion, who overcame pain and despair, began to think about the whole story. What made him most incredible was how could that bastard priest remember what happened in the time loop. Every time a new time cycle begins, he does not show anything unusual. In every time cycle, he is very consistent in completing certain things, and never goes beyond the limit. Could it be that he acted out this deliberately? This is too scary. No, it is too scary. At this moment, Lumion fully understood how terrifying the enemy he was facing was. With such a level of disguise, even the most skilled actor in the world may not be able to perform better than him. The only way I can do now is to find a suitable suicide method. As long as I die here, everything will change. After thinking for a long time, Lumion could only come up with this solution. He tried to enter deep meditation, wanting to accept the gaze of the two mysterious and terrifying beings, and wanting to use their power to make himself collapse and lose control. But he still failed because his meditation had no effect at all. At this time, a figure wearing a black robe and a wide hood walked outside the church, with his entire face hidden in the shadows. His presence gave the priest a respectful and humble attitude. Lumion tried his best to reverse the direction of his body and looked over, wanting to see what happened. Are you wondering why your meditation failed? The figure walked towards Lumion. The familiar figure and the unbelievable voice made Lumion widen his eyes. When the figure approached, Lumion clearly saw the true appearance of the man in black robe. He was a young man, 18 or 19 years old, with slender limbs, short black hair, and light blue eyes, quite handsome. This face is extremely familiar to Lumion, because he can see it every day when he looks in the mirror. This is himself. Who are you? Lumion was shocked and asked, but the cloth stuffed in his mouth blocked his words. The man ignored Lumion and smiled as he walked towards the parish priest. He looked at the sky and said, "Let's start the ceremony." Okay. The parish priest lowered his head and ordered people to carry Lumion to the altar. Lumion tried desperately to struggle. Although his body was very flexible because of his dancing, he was still carried to the altar and tied up in the face of several strong men. The thorn ring with black liquid flowing was shining on Lumion's body, leaving him no strength to struggle. In his daze, he saw Auror walking towards him, looking at him with empty eyes. The constellation is finally changing. The great day that belongs to us is finally coming. Amid the discussion, the smell of gray amber, lilac, and tulip began to spread, and the spiritual candlelight began to light. Lumion vaguely saw the parish priest open his mouth and shout in ancient Hermetic language, "The great ring of fate." Thump, thump. Lumion's eyes were dark, and he could clearly hear his heartbeat. It seemed that some scenes he had experienced in the depths of his memory were slowly dragged out. His head swelled in chaos, and his heart was burning, as if something was drilling out. The parish priest did not care about Lumion's changes, and continued to chant in a pious and fanatical tone, "You are the great reincarnation, the destined fate, the cause, the result, and the process." Suddenly, the two candles on the altar representing the gods stretched their light and became the size of a human head. Inside the church, a humming sound blew, and the villagers seemed to have turned into statues, with silver, white and black tumors slowly protruding on their faces, backs of hands and other exposed places, one after another. The silver-black light that was originally only around the altar spread rapidly in all directions, enveloping the entire church and the entire village. In the sky, the clouds dispersed, and the crimson moon became deeper, emitting a light close to blood red. The villagers began to talk in a dreamy voice. The constellations have begun to change. Good luck is about to come. At the same time, the thorn ring with black liquid flowing in front of Lumion began to wriggle, and gradually grew a silver-black eyeball. It was a taboo that should not belong to this world. Once it appeared, it made the surroundings fall into an almost absolutely forbidden area. Seeing this scene, the black-robed man and the parish priest looked more fanatical, kneeling on the ground and shouting, "Great Ring of Destiny! Your devout believers are listening to your oracle." The parish priest trembled all over. He really didn't expect that such a sacrifice would actually attract the arrival of the gods. The Great Ring of Destiny, he is now sending a ray of consciousness into that thorn ring. Is this an affirmation of his own efforts? But soon, the silver-black eyeball seemed to be frightened and quickly retracted into the thorn ring, and all the strange phenomena around it disappeared. Great Ring of Fate. Before the parish priest in charge of the sacrifice could be surprised, the thorn ring with black liquid suddenly exploded, spraying out filthy and smelly black substances, which covered most of the church. The sudden change made the whole church quiet down. The villagers who had been kneeling on the ground praying for the change of constellations and the blessing of the gods raised their heads one by one to look at everything around them. So disgusting. Lumion shook his cheeks and shook off the black substance that had just hit his mouth. The strong stench rushed into his nose, making him dare not breathe through his nose, but his mouth was blocked by a cloth, which almost made him faint from nausea. Why did the gods leave suddenly? The parish priest looked at the exploded black thorn ring with a puzzled face. It was clear that the breath of the gods had appeared just now, and there was no doubt about this. But why did the gods leave in such a hurry? Was it because he had enjoyed the offerings tonight? Or was he dissatisfied with the sacrifice tonight? Yes, such a simple sacrifice certainly could not satisfy the appetite of the gods. He wanted a more grand sacrifice ceremony. Trier, the capital of the Republic of Intis, was the most suitable target. The parish priest felt that he had understood why the gods left suddenly. He put away his panic and stood up from the ground. He sorted out his mood and smiled at the villagers. The gods have heard our prayers. He will surely realize the most sincere wishes in each of our hearts. Now, let us continue this unfinished sacrifice. The villagers who were obviously wrong echoed and restarted the sacrifice. Lumion saw with his own eyes that Auror was lifted up by an invisible force and flew to the top of the altar, facing him. His eyes reflected Auror's long golden hair, empty light blue eyes, holy and dull face, simple but strange robes. Auror. Lumion's eyes widened and his whole body trembled. He ignored the marks of the ropes on his body and used his greatest strength to try to get rid of the bondage. He was not afraid of death, but he was afraid to see Auror die in front of him, even if he suffered a little. At this moment, a sharp pain from the depths of his mind surged out, as if to pull Lumion's soul, spirit, life and everything else out of his body. Ah! Lumion suddenly burst out with great strength and bit off the cloth in his mouth, uttering an extremely painful scream. His chest was opening up little by little, and a silver-white light with black was cast out, falling on Auror's body. Hearing Lumion's painful voice, Auror's eyes seemed to move slightly, and Lumion's face with bulging blood vessels, distorted expression, and silver black hidden in her empty eyes was reflected. She instinctively stretched out her hands and pushed Lumion out of the altar and out of danger. Sister. Lumion stared at this scene in a daze, feeling that all the pain disappeared in an instant, replaced by a sadness so strong that he couldn't cry. Bang! Lumion fell heavily to the ground, and the ropes that bound him until he bled completely broke under the push. He climbed up with his hands and feet, and stumbled towards the altar without caring about his life. Halfway, he was stopped by the black-robed man who looked exactly like him. Seeing that the sacrificial ceremony had changed, the parish priest Guillaume hurriedly shortened the process and recited the subsequent prayer. Great Ring of Fate, I pray to you. Pray for your grace. Pray for your grace to me. Before he finished reading, there were new changes around him. The constellations in the sky trembled slightly, as if they were about to move in a certain direction and change their original positions. At this time, the stars in the sky flickered, and the starlight shook slightly, and the entire constellation that was about to deviate stayed quietly in its original position. But the ceremony continued, the silver-black light spread, and the villagers who were still looking forward to the future silently disintegrated into organs one by one, including eyeballs, mouths, noses, hearts, fingers, and simple flesh and blood. A small number of these things spontaneously formed a mess of human-shaped flesh balls, and most of them rushed to the altar and flew towards Auror. Auror, seeing this scene, Lumion fell into deep despair. He knocked away the black-robed man and staggered towards the altar, but an invisible shield blocked him outside the altar and prevented him from getting close. Soon, Auror merged with the flesh and blood organs of those villagers, twisting and squirming into a giant. The giant was 4 or 5 meters tall, with 3 heads and 6 arms. His whole body was made up of pieces of flesh and blood, and fragments of organs. There were cracks everywhere on his body surface, and yellow pus flowed. The head in the middle of the giant, full of pain and pity, looked at Lumion with difficulty, and a little transparent blood-red tears slowly slid down from the corners of his eyes. At the same time, strands of silver-black light flowed along the giant towards Lumion. Lumion, who witnessed this scene, felt his mind buzzing, as if he was split in half by an axe. While Lumion was stunned, the black-robed man smiled sinisterly, turned into a ball of dark and filthy liquid, flew in front of him, and rushed into his left chest. Ah! Lumion once again let out a soul-tearing pain. In this unbearable pain, he seemed to see some memories that he had deliberately forgotten and suppressed in the past come back to his mind. All the fragmented details and familiarity were reassembled to restore a reality he didn't want to face. He had experienced this more than once, and this was the second time. Auror had already died in the first time loop, which was a reality he had never dared to remember and did not want to remember. So he hid in the time loop of his dream, trying to find a way to save Auror, but he failed again. Once again, he saw Auror sacrifice herself in front of him to protect him. Lumion lay on his back on the ground, losing all his strength, looking at the dome of the church above his head and everything around him, which gradually broke, cracking inch by inch like a mirror. He knew that he would return to reality and face the reality that he had always wanted to avoid and hide from. Click. There seemed to be footsteps approaching, walking to his side, looking down at him in a condescending posture. Lumion was still lying on the ground, his eyelids did not even blink, his eyes were empty and staring at the sky that had returned to tranquility. He remembered that Auror liked to look at the starry sky on such a cool night, and she would pray devoutly to the great being she believed in and seek protection from him. But that great being did not protect Auror. This starry sky is really boring. Lumion whispered silently in his heart. Is this the last story of Miss Muggle? A voice with a hint of tears sounded. This has already happened, and it was like this before I came. Another mature female voice sounded. What is a dream, and what is real? This time it was a man's voice. It was the 2 strangers and the mysterious lady who gave him the tarot cards. Lumion's eyes moved, as if some hope was rekindled. He supported himself with one hand and quickly climbed up, looking at the mysterious lady in the orange dress with hope and pain. Auror, can't be saved. A tiny hope. That means there is still hope. Lumion was instantly excited, tears dripping down the corners of his eyes. Quick, tell me, how can Auror come back to life? Look for a miracle. Where is the miracle? When you find it, that's when the miracle appears. Quote. Lumion buried his head, grabbed his hair with both hands, and whimpered in extreme pain. Soon, he rekindled hope. Can the great being you believe in give me such a miracle? If he is willing. Furs glanced at Claude, who was standing aside and watching the stars. I also believe in miracles, because I am a fortune teller. Claude smiled, then looked at Miss Frank, who was still sad and crying with red eyes, pulled her away from here, and let Furs clean up the final mess alone. It seems that you are lucky. Furs said meaningfully. Haha, my luck. If it weren't for Auror's sacrifice, I would rather let Auror get such luck. Furs did not correct the mistakes in Lumion's words. If you want to get a miracle, it depends on your future efforts. I want to join you. Okay, this is also one of the reasons why I came here. What should I call you? Furs just left a magician tarot card and left quietly. As Lumion's dream was shattered, Cordu village also returned to its true appearance, with ruined walls, black scorch marks from the fire, and gradually drying blood sprinkled everywhere, making the mountain peaks dyed red. Looking from a distance, everything in the former Cordu village seemed to be shrouded in an illusory and twisted blood-colored mist. The only thing that seemed real to Miss Frank was that the horse was still waiting for their return outside the village of Cordu. It was lying on the grass next to a big tree, sleeping soundly. This is all like a dream. Miss Frank expressed her heartfelt emotion. This is originally a dream, and dreams can deceive people. Mr. Claude, Are you reminding me to distinguish between dreams and reality? Confused dreams can turn reality upside down. Well, I will try my best to overcome this. Miss Frank got on the carriage and stretched out her hand to open the curtain of the carriage. She added, although I have gained a sad result, I still want to thank Mr. Claude for this companion along the way. It's also been a fun trip for me. Miss Frank nodded, opened the curtain, stooped and walked in, letting out an excited exclamation. The sound was so loud that the horse that was resting on the ground was frightened and woke up. Ah, how could it be? Miss Muggle, why are you here? Haven't you already? Am I still in the dream just now? Snapped. It hurts so much. Is this reality? Claude outside the carriage looked at the starry sky above his head, smiled, and asked, what happened? Mr. Claude, Miss Muggle, she is still alive. Right in front of me, it's true. Maybe this is a miracle. In the carriage, Miss Frank gradually recovered from the shock. She sat next to Auror, took Auror's hands and looked at them carefully. She needed them for a long time, and finally confirmed that Miss Auror was in front of her. Is real. Miss Muggle, I guess you wouldn't mind answering our questions. The dream revealed by Lumion did indeed happen, but part of it was incomplete. And I had indeed been living in the dream before you arrived at Cthulhu village. Auror's voice was soft and slow. He slowly told what he had experienced. A large-scale sacrificial event indeed took place in Cthulhu village. She and Lumion were both selected sacrifices, and they were indeed pushed to the altar and sacrificed to the hidden existence known as the Ring of Destiny. In Lumion's memory, she became a container carrying the power of sacrifice and merged with the villagers of Cthulhu village into a huge abominable monster. Before the sacrifice was successful, she pushed Lumion out of the altar and used the sacrifice to obtain the power that came saved him, but he himself was sacrificed. And in her memory, after she carried the power gained from the sacrifice, a starlight landed in the distant starry sky, protecting her and preventing her from completely losing her mind. After the sacrifice, she was like a wandering soul, living in Lumion's dream as a bystander. She was unable to interfere with Lumion's dreams, and she could not be noticed by Lumion. It was not until Lumion recalled the memory of the priest's sacrifice and broke the time loop that she regained her body and freedom and successfully survived. Come over. She didn't want to meet Lumion and wanted him to grow up completely through this incident, so she silently left Cthulhu village and came to the carriage in advance to wait. Oh my God. Miss Frank covered her mouth tightly with her hand to prevent herself from being too shocked and making too rude exclamations. It's actually like this. Miss Frank tried hard to overcome the shock in her heart, but she couldn't. This is amazing. That starlight is. My faith is in the stars. Auror's eyes showed a pious light. At that critical moment of life and death, it was the blessing of the stars that saved me. The stars. Mr. Claude, don't you also plan to join the Church of the Stars? Miss Frank seemed to have remembered something. Is your arrival also guided by the stars? Oh, that's what happened. An illusory door of light was generated directly inside the carriage, and then Forsy's figure appeared in the empty seat next to Miss Frank. Miss Frank and Auror were startled, but they quickly realized that their eyes were full of envy. This ability is so convenient. Auror hesitated and said, Dear Madam, Lumion, frustration and pain are certainly excellent nutrients for growth, but I still feel that deception is not a good choice. Forsy said lightly, if there were no miracles granted by the stars, this would be reality. Since I survived because of the blessings of the stars, I should repay the gifts of the stars. Oh, the gift of the stars. With a smile on his lips, Forsy looked up at the figure hidden by the gray carriage curtain, and chuckled, How do you plan to repay this gift? I want to go to Backland in the kingdom of Lowen, which is the birthplace of the star faith. Ah, Miss Muggle, won't you come back to Trier with me? Trier, that is Lumion's stage. But, we can still communicate through letters. But, Miss Owl, I am very grateful that you came here from Trier to save me. Auror, who slowly coaxed Miss Frank, looked at Furs and said, Dear lady, although I don't know much about you, I know that you are a member of the Tarot Club and come here to recruit Lumion to join the Tarot Club. I believe that with your integrity and kindness, you will definitely arrange his growth. Here, I would like to thank you for your help to Lumion. In addition, I would also like to ask you to keep it a secret and not tell Lumion the truth that I am still alive. When he grows up and matures, I will come to see him. Faced with Auror's request, Furs neither agreed nor refused. Her mind was not here at the moment. She had been here for so long and didn't realize that Auror was still alive. She didn't even know the key information that Auror was a believer of the stars. It was really embarrassing. Could it be that he came here just to help me clean up the mess? No, given his character, he is more likely to come here to see me in such a shameful state. Ah, this is too shameful. Furs felt her cheeks getting hot constantly. If there were no outsiders present, she would definitely not be able to hold back her feelings at this moment. She took several deep breaths to suppress this shameful feeling. The quiet night will eventually fade away. When the first ray of light belonging to the sun fell on the hilltop of Cordu village, the golden and brilliant sunlight spread rapidly in all directions like lighting a cotton field. The blood-red mist that was still hazy, distorted and illusory last night was completely purified under the golden sunlight until it turned into wisps of smoke and dispersed. Is everything over? In the ruined Eternal Sun Church, Lumion, who was still immersed in pain, looked at the sun gradually rising from the top of the hill. His eyes were so painful that he couldn't open them. The sunlight was too dazzling. At the same time, he felt a burning pain in his chest, and a faint wisp of black smoke came out. Am I no longer worthy of living in the sun? Lumion laughed bitterly at himself, struggled to get up and left the church, and left along the shadows that had not yet been covered by the golden sun. At the same time, the carriage parked outside the village also left. When the golden sun rose, Claude, the coachman, drove the carriage back along the original route. Today's sun is so dazzling. Auror lifted a corner of the window curtain and looked at the dilapidated village that was getting farther and farther away. Ms. Furs, where are you going next? Miss Frank asked cautiously and tentatively. This mysterious and powerful Ms. Furs had no intention of leaving since she came to the carriage last night, which made her a little overwhelmed. Oh, I just happened to be going back to Trier like you. Can't you reach Trier directly through the travel portal? Furs smiled brightly and said, over-reliance on one's own extraordinary abilities is not a good sign. It is a rare honor to have Mr. Claude drive the car to see you off in person, and of course the longer you experience it, the better. The Star Sea Kingdom, a maritime kingdom shrouded by the glory of the stars, is the most popular country on the entire continent today. A large number of adventurers and merchants travel back and forth with ships worth millions of gold. The pirate phenomenon that had flourished for many years was also restrained under the rules and regulations of the Star Sea Kingdom, and gradually integrated into it and became the new citizens of the Star Sea Kingdom. In the Rorstad Islands, in a large villa near the royal palace and facing the sea, Zio was sitting on the sofa in the living room of his home at night, with a dark face, looking at the travel portal that was secretly opened with a squint. When she caught a glimpse of Fur's familiar figure, she chuckled, "Your ability is really convenient. You can take things from a distance. I really envy you." Quote. Furs came out of the travel portal with an embarrassed look on her face. She coughed twice before saying, "I want to help you reduce the burden of food. Eating too much at night is not good for your health. Do you know how long I was hungry that day?" Shu stood up and walked forward a few steps. She stretched out her hand to pinch Fur's ears to let her know what the price of stealing food would be, but she caught a glimpse of a strange figure coming through the travel portal. It was a good-looking man, about 27 or 28 years old. Shu's expression immediately became alert, and she looked back and forth at Furs and the strange man. "This is Mr. Claude, a friend I met when I went out this time. He just happened to come here on the way," Furs explained with a smile. On the way back to Trier, Claude suddenly said that he wanted to visit the Star Sea Kingdom, so she had to take him to open the travel portal. "Okay, Furs, you have learned to bring men home now. It seems that I should not stay at home tonight, but go out to make room for you," Zio said with a sour tone. Furs laughed even more happily. "Shu, it's not too late for you to go out for a walk now. It would be better if you don't come back." Quote. Zio's expression was slightly stiff, looking at Furs in disbelief, and she didn't expect her to say such a ruthless thing. "Mr. Claude, are you used to drinking coffee or sweeter milk tea?" Furs deliberately ignored Zio's complex expression and inquiring eyes. "Milk tea, it would be better if you can add more sugar." "Mr. Claude, please sit here and wait for a while." Furs invited Claude to bypass Zio and sit on the sofa, then got up and went to the kitchen to prepare milk tea. Quote. This act of cooking made Zio stunned. Fortunately, she quickly suppressed the strangeness in her heart, and deliberately sat opposite Mr. Claude. After taking a serious look, she asked, "Mr. Claude, where are you from?" "I'm from Intis." "Hey, a man from Intis," Shu patiently said, You and Furs seem to have a good relationship. We have taken risks together. This time, the Cordu village incident. Well, it was an unforgettable journey. In the kitchen, Furs, who was preparing milk tea, was holding back her smile and secretly watching the conversation between she and Claude. She almost laughed out loud several times. But when she heard Shu suddenly say, "It's a pity, Furs has never liked men, only girls." The happy expression on Furs's face froze instantly, and she almost knocked over the milk tea at hand. In order to stop Shu from talking nonsense, she hurriedly took the milk tea and walked out of the kitchen. Oh, Ms. Furs only likes women. Yes, she has a serious homosexual fetish, and the presence of the opposite sex only makes her uncomfortable. Is that so? Claude's smile became even stronger, as if he had satisfied a certain kind of melon-eating mentality. Then what is your relationship with Ms. Furs? Just what you think in your heart. Shu. Furs, who was a distance away from the sofa, interrupted Shu's nonsense loudly. Alas, she can never be honest about our relationship. Shu shrugged helplessly and sighed. What are you talking about? Furs walked up quickly and carefully placed a cup of Intis-flavored red date and taro paste milk tea in front of Claude, then turned to look at Shu, clenched his teeth and said, "When did I have a homosexual fetish? This is an obvious fact, Furs, you should learn to accept yourself. No matter how imperfect it is also a part of you and cannot be separated." Shu leaned back and leaned against the sofa. His expression was normal, except that he was crossing his legs. It's really interesting. Claude smiled and picked up the milk tea in front of him, took a sip, slowly stood up and said with a smile, "It tastes good, thank you Ms. Furs and Ms. Shu for your hospitality today. A firm relationship does not need to fear worldly rumors, it is not a sin." After he finished speaking, his figure disappeared with the milk tea. Shu looked at the scene in front of her with a look of shock and astonishment. With her strength, she could not detect how the other party left, which made her suddenly have a bad premonition in her heart. Was the joke just now too big? Shu, facing Furs, whose eyes were almost blazing with anger, Shu lowered her head and moved her eyes away awkwardly, whispering, "I really just wanted to make a little joke." "Hey, you scared away my distinguished guest, do you think I will accept your apology like this?" Distinguished guest. Shu immediately grasped the key point in Furs's words, raised his head, and looked at Furs in disbelief. "No way." "What do you think?" Furs rolled his eyes at her and said unhappily. Quote. Shu paused for 2 or 3 seconds before digesting the information. He immediately giggled and approached Furs, asking her about the adventure of this trip. "Hey, you." Furs poked Shu's head lightly with her right index finger. She was too lazy to blame her anymore. She pulled Shu to sit on the sofa on the same side and told the story of this trip. In the fairy tale castle, Bernadette, who was looking up at the starry sky, looked at the person who suddenly appeared in front of her in surprise. His left hand was in the outer pocket of his shirt, and his right hand was holding a cup of Intis-flavored milk tea. He was wearing clothes from Intis. He was not very old, and his eyes were particularly bright, as if they were gathering stars. Soon, Bernadette knew who the visitor was. She smiled and said, "Since you're visiting me, can you bring me a cup of milk tea?" "I can't help it." Furs only prepared 1 cup. "Just passing by. It's been a few years since we last met, right?" "5 years. Really, I almost forgot the feeling of time passing. Come down and walk more often, so that you can experience it more clearly. Not too far, not too close, that's good. Won't you be bored?" "Boring? Such a word is really not suitable to come from your mouth." "I can't help it. I'm really bored now. I really want to go to the starry sky and see a different world." "That's not a problem. Let's wait until later. I'm always good at waiting." The night wind blew by, and Bernadette began to talk about what the Star Sea Kingdom had experienced during this period, occasionally adding some major changes that had occurred on the continent. When she finished talking, the figure standing opposite, under the light of the stars, had quietly left without knowing when. She suddenly had a premonition that the next time they met, it might be more than 5 years. Bernadette's eyes followed the direction of the falling starlight all the way up, and she seemed to see an ancient palace slowly rising from the endless starlight in the bright starry sky. At first glance, she thought it was an illusion. After a careful look, shock flashed in her eyes. She was not wrong, and it was not an illusion. The ancient palace belonging to the stars was indeed rising slowly. At the beginning, the Hall of Stars was in the shining of the stars, sitting in the entire starry sky, but at this moment, the Hall of Stars was slowly rising, as if it wanted to break away from the surrounding stars, go higher, and surpass the starry sky. This process is not fast, but it is indeed a real phenomenon. The Hall of Stars is rising. Does the universe have the concept of height? If you want to figure this out, you must first understand what height specifically represents. It is a distance, or more precisely, a concept based on the universal gravitation reference system. In the universe, there is no concept of gravity, so does height still exist? There is no height in the universe, only distance. As for the more advanced content, for the first time, Russell felt regret for not studying hard. He couldn't figure this out, so he couldn't explain what he saw. In his vision and in the perception of the spiritual world, he could see that the ancient and magnificent Hall of Stars was rising little by little. Yes, rising, it seemed to be leaving the entire starry sky, the entire universe. Although it is very far away from here, it really exists. But is there such a thing as rising in the scale of the universe? In what way and phenomenon is the rising of the Hall of Stars taking place? Do you need to go to the starry sky in person to peek into it? Russell felt that his brain was not enough, and his limited knowledge of astronomy could not support him to carry out such complex thinking. Finally, he thought about it and sent a clone to the Star Sea Kingdom. As a believer of the stars, his daughter Bernadette might know some secrets about the stars. Arriving in the fairy tale castle of the Star Sea Kingdom, Bernadette, Furs, and Hugh, the three believers of the stars, were looking up at the starry sky with pious expressions and deep confusion in their eyes. Before Russell spoke, Bernadette shook her head gently, indicating that she did not understand what happened tonight. Just now, the incarnation of the stars was still chatting with her, but in a blink of an eye, he returned to the starry sky, and then the star hall began to rise. Maybe something happened in the starry sky. She could only guess like this. The starry sky, the fallen mother goddess, the mother tree of desire, the superstar overlord and a lot of other outer gods also paid attention to the abnormality of the star hall. Since entering the star age, the stars have never really shown their faces. It is only one clone that walks through the starry sky and lights up the stars. According to their estimates and guesses, if the stars want to go further, they should light up the entire starry sky. This is a necessary ritual. Given the speed of the stars, the time required to light up the entire starry sky is so long that it is impossible to count. It is absolutely impossible to do it before the initial barrier is broken and the end of the world comes. This is also the reason why they let the stars gradually light up the starry sky. After all, they have not figured out how to break through the star hall. Even if one clone is destroyed, it will not be a loss to the stars. But tonight, it is still almost 10 years away from the predicted doomsday, and there are unusual movements on the star's side. The star hall is rising continuously, as if it wants to break away from the entire starry sky and leave this universe. The outer god Old Days, who is good at deduction and calculation, believes that the day when the initial barrier is broken and the end of the world comes, is the day when the star hall leaves this starry sky and the entire universe. These two time points just happen to coincide. It is absolutely impossible to be a coincidence. Could it be that the stars have seen the future and know that the situation of the end of the world cannot be changed, so they want to leave this universe and be alone? This is a very reasonable guess. Because the stars originally come from outside the universe, they are mysterious existences that do not belong to this universe, and there is no reason and no need to stay in this universe. What makes the powerful outer gods such as the fallen mother goddess and the mother tree of desire feel uneasy is what kind of future the stars have seen that will suddenly make such a move. Is it to break away or escape? Doesn't the coming of the end of the world refer to the catastrophe in which the initial barrier is broken and the outer gods of the starry sky divide up several major sources on the earth? Could it be that the original creator will wake up on the day of the end of the world? Thinking of this, even a pillar-level existence like the fallen mother goddess feels an unspeakable panic. Once the original creator wakes up, the entire universe will regroup and evolve. These outer gods of the old days entrenched in the starry sky, will follow this universe to destruction and become part of the original creator. This is the real doomsday, the doomsday of the entire universe. But will there really be such a future? Why does he, as one of the three pillars, have no special premonition of such a future? Is it because it involves the original creator, so everything becomes unpredictable? The fallen mother goddess looked at the fate ring and the fate weaver who fell into silence. They are the outer gods of the old days who know the fate best in the starry sky. I can't see through the future. It refuses my prying. No matter how hard I enter the long river of fate and struggle forward, I can never reach the day when the doomsday comes. It seems to be isolated by some powerful force. That power does not belong to the stars. Perhaps, the day when the doomsday comes no longer exists. After a long time, the fate ring said all the gains from his trip to spy on fate. I am only good at weaving the fate that is happening. I am not as good as the fate ring in exploring the unknown fate. The fate weaver spoke frankly about his shortcomings. In peeking into the unknown destiny and finding the right future, this authority belongs to the ring of destiny. Only he represents the right destiny. Because the complete authority of destiny is too powerful, when the original creator fell and evolved the universe, the authority of destiny was divided into 3 parts, as well as some scattered fragments of destiny. The ring of fate represents the cycle and reincarnation of destiny, which is the result of destiny that has already happened, focusing on the past. The weaver of fate represents the manipulation and modification of destiny, which is the influence on the destiny that is happening now, focusing on the present. The wheel of fortune represents the foreknowledge and omen of destiny, which is the ability to find the right path in the chaotic destiny, focusing on the future. Perhaps this is just the stars deliberately bluffing. He has always had a bad taste, although not as bad as the Lord of Mysteries. Perhaps the stars encountered something, forcing him to leave this universe. Haha, no matter what the stars want to do, we just wait and see. As for the future, we will know it only when that day comes. The outer gods of the Old Ones expressed their views one after another. Some of the outer gods of the Old Ones have continued to fall into sleep, no longer paying attention to the movements of the stars, just waiting for the day when the end of the world comes. On the other side, the outer gods of the Mother Tree of Desire and the Superstar Overlord and other camps also met in the starry sky to discuss the phenomenon that was happening. Now there are various theories. Even if they have visited the Hall of Stars many times, they cannot accurately find out the reason for this phenomenon. Before tonight, the starry sky was calm, nothing special happened, the stars did not encounter any enemies, and the Hall of Stars still sat firmly in the starry sky. This proves that the stars actively let the Hall of Stars rise, not passively. The stars will never make such a noise for no reason, and the time point of leaving the universe is too coincidental, it is difficult for them not to have other guesses. Son of Chaos, you have always been on good terms with the stars, you should know him best, right? The Decayed King asked. Hey, I don't care about the so-called doomsday. That's something you should worry about. Aren't you curious? What I'm curious about now is what actions you and the fallen mother goddesses will take next. It seems that the stars didn't tell you. The trick of provoking them doesn't work on me. The Son of Chaos didn't give them too many opportunities to ask. He chuckled and drove away in a chaotic mist. Returning to the Chaos Galaxy where he currently lives, the Son of Chaos fell into deep thought. Based on his understanding of the stars, reaching the starry sky from the initial barrier should be the ritual required to complete the promotion to Sequence 1. This is certain. Not long after the stars ascended to the starry sky, they began to enter the starry age. After so many years, it is difficult for him to be sure whether the stars have entered Sequence 0 or have fully recovered. Because it only took Hasta a few years from entering the extraordinary path to being promoted to Sequence 1. Now it is not impossible for him to be promoted to Sequence 0 or become the Old One. It is said in the starry sky that the stars can only complete the final ritual by lighting up the entire starry sky. He thought so at first, but now he began to doubt the truth of this statement. Perhaps, the stars lighting up the sky was just a trick to attract attention, and his real promotion ceremony was not to light up the sky. Perhaps, just like the promotion Sequence 1, he can only complete the real promotion ceremony by constantly rising and leaving this starry sky. Only the stars know the real situation. The Son of Chaos did not think too much about this matter, because once the initial barrier was broken and the end of the world came, he could be restored to fullness. As for whether the original creator would wake up, even if he wanted to stop it, he didn't know where to start. After all, that was the original creator. In the depths of the starry sky, a figure like a figure wearing a dress dotted with starlight slowly walked over, still silently lighting up one star after another, awakening one starry sky after another. Suddenly, the space in front of him began to fold, and then turned into a huge space cage, blocking the surrounding starry sky. The figure of the high-dimensional overlooker appeared from the depths of the endless space dimension. Stars, since you are leaving this starry sky, why don't you stop lighting up the starry sky? What are you planning? He also observed the abnormal phenomenon coming from the Hall of Stars tonight. Instead of making groundless guesses, he prefers to visit directly. He can't enter the Hall of Stars, but it is not difficult for him to find the incarnation of the stars. Facing the obstruction of the high-dimensional overlooker, the incarnation of the stars just smiled and did not speak. But the high-dimensional overlooker seemed to understand what he wanted to say. This starry sky is your cage. In the incredible and shocked eyes of the high-dimensional overlooker, the space cage originally created by him was swallowed by the surrounding starry sky, and he himself was imprisoned in this starry sky, suppressed everywhere. This is not a real imprisonment, but in a sense, it is the stars that make him feel that the entire starry sky has become a cage, and he and all other outer gods are living in the cage. Personal suppression. This conjecture suddenly flashed through his mind. He, who is called the high-dimensional overlooker, should be in a higher dimension of time and space, overlooking the various things happening in the starry sky. But now, the stars seem to be standing in a higher dimension overlooking himself, which is a new dimension that he cannot go to. Outside the universe. Haha, it's a pity that you haven't really mastered this starry sky yet. It's too early for you to use the starry sky as a cage. The space around the high-dimensional looker suddenly trembled, disrupting the confinement of this starry sky and regaining freedom. The incarnation of the stars just glanced at it lightly, and continued to move forward along the depths of the starry sky and light up the stars along the way. The high-dimensional looker following behind tried to interfere with the stars lighting up the starry sky several times, but no matter what ability he used, even if he hit a piece of starry sky in a multi-dimensional space that only he could enter and exit, the stars still stepped on it as if it were flat ground, lit it up and left. Because in this starry sky, there is no place that the stars cannot reach. Space, time, and even all the chaotic chaos cannot stop the stars from moving forward in the starry sky. But there is one thing that makes the high-dimensional looker feel suspicious. The stars seem to have never shown their powerful offensive ability, either relying on the magic of the Hall of Stars itself, or relying on the power of the entire starry sky. His power comes from the starry sky. What if he breaks the starry sky that he wants to light up? The high-dimensional overlooker thought for a while, crossed the space, came to the starry sky in front of the incarnation of the stars, detonated the space of the surrounding starry sky, and made the time and space here completely collapse. The many stars originally contained in the range also completely turned into dead nothingness. But when the incarnation of the stars arrived here, it still passed through easily. Wherever it passed, the broken stars regrouped again, and it was much brighter and more brilliant than before. The whole starry sky had a kind of vigorous vitality that came to life from the dead nothingness. The high-dimensional overlooker watched this scene calmly. When the incarnation of the stars left this starry sky, he once again completely shattered this starry sky. This time, the broken starry sky did not reunite, and everything fell into absolute darkness and nothingness again. The footsteps of the incarnation of the stars did not stop because of this, and they continued to move forward towards the deeper starry sky ahead. The high-dimensional overlooker followed silently behind, destroying the starry sky lit by the stars one by one, so that the starry sky would no longer be bright because of the arrival of the stars. This scene of openly provoking and declaring war aroused the curiosity of other outer gods, and they all cast their gazes. The high-dimensional overlooker's style of behavior has always been to hide his head and tail, and rarely conflict with other outer gods, but this time he actually declared war on the stars directly, and there must be some unknown hidden secrets. Perhaps it involves a struggle for power, some outer gods speculated. The outer gods of the two major camps of the fallen Mother Goddess and the Mother Tree of Desire also paid attention to this matter, and they tacitly did not choose to stop or help. However, there are many outer gods with strange and irritable tempers. Because they hate this so-called era of stars, they choose to follow the high-dimensional overlooker to destroy the starry sky that is not protected by the outer gods. The starry sky that is constantly breaking up, under the guidance of some outer gods with ulterior motives, forms countless turbulent fragments and rushes towards the earth protected by the original barrier. Although such behavior cannot break through the protection of the initial barrier, the visual expression is terrifying. Within the initial barrier, anyone who looks up at the starry sky can see meteors flashing red, blue or white light rushing towards the earth. The starry sky, which originally belonged to the night, now turned into a picture of the end of the world. Many hidden beings were alarmed and thought that the end of the world had come early. Some began to spy on fate, some performed divination, and some traced back to the origin of things. A sigh came from the kingdom of the goddess of night at the initial crack. The night enveloped the earth. Ordinary people could only see the dark deep space when they looked up at the starry sky. Only extraordinary people of sequence 2 and above could slightly penetrate the interception of the night and peek at the scene of countless meteors falling. The initial barrier seemed to be full of cracks, but no matter how many meteors hit it, they were easily intercepted outside the initial barrier. Will, who settled in Backland, also came to the kingdom of God that originally belonged to the God of knowledge and wisdom, and watched everything outside the starry sky. The starry sky was constantly collapsing, as if a big melee was taking place. Will looked at it for a while, then returned to Backland with a strange look, and no longer worried about the stars. He thought that the stars were fighting with the outer gods in the starry sky, but it turned out to be just the incompetent rage of the outer gods of the high-dimensional overlookers. Although he did not know much about the power of the stars, he also knew that the stars lighting up the starry sky was definitely not a literal meaning. It was too naive to want to stop the stars from lighting up the starry sky by disintegrating the starry sky. Hastur was probably silently enjoying this joke-like drama in the Hall of Stars. Back at Backland's home, Will lay on his back on the big bed near the window of his home, with his legs crossed, humming a ballad, and enjoying the fireworks from the starry sky. Not to mention, the outer gods of the high-dimensional overlookers were still working hard. Hidden in the highest position of the spirit world, the source castle shrouded in gray fog, and the chaos sea deep underground that had been silent for many years were disturbed by the abnormality of the starry sky tonight. In the source castle, Klein, who had regained some consciousness, clearly felt the anger from the Lord of Mystery. This anger was not directed at the stars, but at the outer gods of the old days who were disintegrating the starry sky. What serious consequences will the disintegration of the starry sky lead to? Klein thought about this question seriously. Because when the Hall of Stars was rising, the Lord of Mysteries did not make any movement, but when the outer gods and the old ones continued to destroy the starry sky, the Lord of Mysteries' consciousness suddenly fluctuated violently. After spending so many years with the Lord of Mysteries, Klein probably understood what he wanted to say: a group of fools who don't know how to live or die. The starry sky lit up by the stars was constantly destroyed by the outer gods and the old ones. Under the powerful force, the stars were broken into pieces, and some starry sky areas were completely reduced to nothingness, leaving only empty silence. In this case, the incarnation of the stars still moved forward in its predetermined direction without haste, lighting up the starry sky along the way. Even if they were destroyed in the next moment, the incarnation of the stars never looked back. Something is wrong. The high-dimensional overlooker who sensed something was wrong did not continue to destroy the starry sky, but chose to stop and watch the stars go deeper into the starry sky that had not yet been destroyed and lit up. He looked back and saw that the starry sky behind him was shattered and destroyed by other outer gods. The surrounding starry sky was dim and full of death. And this behavior of destroying the starry sky continued. The high-dimensional observer saw that some outer gods had gone crazy and released their power like crazy, like unconscious beasts constantly attacking the starry sky in front of them, and the stars that dotted the starry sky were extinguished one by one. He realized that he seemed to have done something very wrong tonight. The light of the stars began to dim, and the bright starry sky began to disappear. An inexplicable panic made the high-dimensional overlooker tremble in his heart, and then the depths of his soul seemed to be disturbed by some huge terror, which made him unable to help but feel fear. The high-dimensional overlooker was not the only outer god old day who felt this way. The fallen mother goddess, the mother tree of desire, the ring of fate, the superstar overlord and other powerful outer god old days also noticed at the same time that some huge terror seemed to be awakening. Something is wrong. Stop. The fallen mother goddess was the first to notice that something was wrong. She did not choose to stand by and watch, but appeared directly in front of the outer god old days who were still destroying the starry sky, and shouted at them to stop this behavior. But the outer god old days, who were already in a state of overwhelmed and seemed to have their minds covered, ignored the warning of the fallen mother goddess, and continued to do their own thing, constantly destroying the nearby starry sky. A bunch of idiots. The angry fallen mother goddess did not speak any more to persuade, but showed her powerful strength as one of the three pillars, and pushed the surrounding outer gods with a tyrannical attitude, forcing them to stop destroying the starry sky. The ring of fate, the weaver of destiny, and the unextinguished whispering outer gods also chose to follow the fallen mother goddess to attack, and even the high-dimensional overlooker, who was the perpetrator of tonight, also tried to stop these crazy outer gods. The fallen mother goddess actually chose to defend the starry sky lit up by the stars. The mother tree of desire and other parties watched for a while and chose to join in the elimination of the outer gods who had lost their minds and destroyed the starry sky. Although the specific reason is unclear, it is certain that it is related to the sudden inexplicable panic just now. Something big is going to happen in the starry sky tonight. When the starry sky became quiet again, the incarnation of the stars that had been lighting up the starry sky in front stopped briefly, looked back, glanced at the high-dimensional overlooker with a meaningful look, and then continued to move forward into the depths of the starry sky. It seems that I really made a big mistake. The high-dimensional overlooker sighed and glanced at the fallen mother goddess with a bad look. Don't worry, I won't mess around again, one lesson is enough. The fallen mother goddess did not speak, but just stared at him for a while, then blocked his way. I'm afraid you don't have the chance to mess around again. Fallen mother goddess, do you want to take this opportunity to keep me? The high-dimensional overlooker smiled and said, if I want to leave, you can't stop me. It seems that you haven't realized how much trouble you have caused tonight. The high-dimensional overlooker's expression instantly became serious, and at the same time, the inexplicable uneasiness in his heart became stronger. All those outer gods who participated in the destruction of the starry sky just now have all fallen. The fallen mother goddess's posture as if reporting the battle record made the high-dimensional overlooker sneer. Fallen mother goddess, don't tell me that you want to defend the starry sky lit by the stars. This joke is not funny at all. Destroying them is just to avoid any future troubles, and the same goes for you. The fallen mother goddess cast her eyes on the starry sky that was shattered tonight, dim and full of dead silence. She said in a tone full of regret and fear, the original creator evolved everything in this universe. In other words, any matter and energy in this universe, visible and intangible, are all part of the creator. Those stars in this large starry sky are also part of the original creator, and the consciousness of the original creator also exists in it. Under normal circumstances, such a weak consciousness will become even smaller and harmless as the starry sky is destroyed, but this is a starry sky covered and lit by the power of the stars. At this point, the high-dimensional overlooker immediately realized what the fallen mother goddess was worried about. What is the authority of the stars? You should know. Awaken, return. The high-dimensional overlooker slowly uttered these two words. When the outer gods of the old days shattered the starry sky, whose consciousness would be awakened and returned? There is only one answer, the original creator. The fallen mother goddess did not think of this at first, until the inexplicable disturbance appeared. She realized the seriousness of the problem. The stars and the original creator are essentially in a hostile relationship. When the stars light up the starry sky, in a way, they suppress the awakening of the original creator's consciousness. When the starry sky collapses and the stars dim, the suppressed original creator consciousness will wake up and return under the indulgence of the authority of the stars returning to their positions. If the entire starry sky falls into complete silence and the stars lose all their light, then the original creator must wake up and return. The high-dimensional overlooker looked down at himself and was completely silent. If the original creator's consciousness was really awakened by the power of the stars just now, then where would it be hidden? The answer is already coming out. Is this possible? Maybe you are right, but when everything is still unclear, it is not my style to give up. The body of the high-dimensional overlooker shrank suddenly, and turned into a light point smaller than dust and jumped into the endless dimensional space. In terms of hiding, no outer god in the starry sky can compare to him. Just let him go. The unextinguished whisper whispered, he can't leave, I have seen his end. The answer was the ring of fate. Just at that moment, I saw through his fate, the same fate as the Lord of Mystery and God in the past. The fallen mother goddess just silently radiated her power to a large area of the surrounding starry sky, and then waited. After about a few days, the small spot of light reappeared where the high-dimensional overlooker had left, and then revealed his huge body comparable to a complete planet. The flesh and blood on his body is constantly being torn apart by the power of dimensional space, and then it is constantly being regenerated. The entire body seems to be carrying some kind of terrible mutation. The surrounding time and space, affected by the power of the high-dimensional overlooker, fell into chaos and imbalance, and began to become weird and distorted. Haha, I still can't get rid of it after all. Gao-dimensional overlooker made a relatively sober voice, it finally woke up in my body. The old outer gods who were still waiting nearby to observe the situation suddenly became frightened and left here as quickly as possible. The fallen mother goddess and other outer gods also felt heavy in their hearts. Although this was something they had expected, when the high-dimensional overlooker personally said the words that the creator was awakened in his body, they still felt it. Very shocking and sad. He who has no concrete self-awareness is not enough to make me fall, but I will never be able to get rid of him. Gao Dimension looked down at the still twinkling starry sky in front of him, as if saying to himself, "Stars, all this is what you expected, right?" Quote, "Make a decision," the fallen mother goddess said calmly. "Should you choose to fight in a deep sleep, or should you let us send you on your last journey? I'm thinking that in the past, the Lord of Mysteries and God also encountered this kind of situation, and what their mood was like at that time." When Gao Wei looked down at him, his body suddenly grew larger and smaller, as if it would explode at any time. Gas tank. By falling, you may have a chance to get rid of the influence of the original creator. I can help you correct your destiny. The Fate Weaver gave his own suggestion. The high-dimensional overlooker was silent for a while. He knew what the fallen mother goddess and the others were afraid of. They were afraid that they would lose the will to fight against the original creator, thus allowing the original creator to awaken further. There is only a little time left before the final doomsday comes, and I think I can still hold on until then. The high-dimensional overlooker expressed his thoughts. He wanted to see with his own eyes what the final doomsday would be like. After waiting for so many years, we have to see the result. Moreover, he also wanted to know whether the stars would eventually leave the universe, and in what way they would leave. Okay. The fallen mother goddess agreed with the high-dimensional overlooker's final decision. I want to choose a place closer to the Earth so that I can see it more clearly. That's it. Humans seem to call it Uranus. The gaze of the high-dimensional observer swept across several stars relatively close to the Earth, and finally landed on Uranus. The high-dimensional overlooker chose a place for himself to rest in peace. I'm afraid he himself did not expect such a result. Watching the high-dimensional overlooker enter the blue-white Uranus, which is more inclined to cyan, the superstar overlord could not help but sigh. Although there are many disturbances and battles in the starry sky, the circle of starry sky outside the Earth, which is what humans call the solar system, has not been destroyed, but has been purposefully preserved and become a temporary habitat for the outer gods. There was also an outer god on Uranus, but at this moment, after the high-dimensional overlooker chose his final resting place, he quickly left and entered the depths of the starry sky. I think this will be a good place. The high-dimensional overlooker tried to suppress the consciousness of the original creator and weaken his own power, so that the fallen mother goddess and several outer gods could more easily seal him. So far, Uranus has become the sleeping place for the high-dimensional overlooker. Have the stars seen this scene in advance? The words of the decayed king were tinged with a bit of fear about the stars. If the stars don't agree, how can his authority help the original creator awaken his consciousness? The mother tree of desire looked into the depths of the starry sky. This is a warning left by the stars on purpose. This incident has made me re-examine this so-called doomsday. Perhaps the original creator will really wake up from his slumber. Even the ring of fate cannot glimpse the final fate. Useless speculation will only bring unnecessary troubles to oneself. I am looking forward to the day when the original creator awakens his consciousness, preferably when the Lord of Mystery and God have just awakened. I really want to see what their expressions will be at that time. Save the extra imagination. After confirming that the high-dimensional overlooker had been completely sealed in Uranus, the mother tree of desire and other outer gods chose to leave. After this incident, no outer god dared to break the starry sky at will, but instead made the entire starry sky fall into unprecedented silence. The Hall of Stars is still rising. In Saphira Castle, Klein noticed that the fluctuations emitted by the Lord of Mysteries had returned to calm, and he knew that most of the things in the starry sky had been resolved. He thought alone for a while, and then his eyes fell on Backlund. He silently watched Benson and Melissa's daily life for a while, and his clear consciousness was once again shrouded in a layer of confusion and sleepiness, and then fell into a deep sleep. A few days later, on Monday afternoon, Saphira Castle, shrouded in gray fog, held the Tarot Club again. After a simple greeting, Furs began to talk about her adventure in Cordu village. She naturally skipped the extraordinary features of Mr. Claude, and only mentioned that he was a partner who accompanied Miss Frank to find her pen pal Miss Muggle. The matter was finally resolved, and she attributed it to the stars and the Fool, so no one doubted the hidden content in her words. Although the believers of Tianzun have suffered several purges, there is still a huge force in the dark. I think the Tarot Club can go further in recruiting members, absorb more fresh blood, and actively expand the influence of the Tarot Club in today's mysterious world. Alger put forward his own ideas. The influence from the starry sky is intensifying. Recently, many new churches have emerged. They are recruiting their own believers and even providing free extraordinary potions of Sequence 9, which have made many ordinary people become extraordinary people. During this period, there have been many cases of loss of control, which once caused considerable chaos and impact. Zio was a little worried. The Church of the Stars has joined hands with the Church of the Night to popularize some basic mystical knowledge in Backland. The Archons of the Kingdom of Lowen have tried several times to apply for the establishment of schools that teach mystical courses, so that the extraordinary world is no longer so mysterious, and it is also a warning to ordinary people. Catalia mentioned, according to what I have learned so far, the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night have passed the proposal to establish a mystical school, and it is likely that they will be the first to hold a pilot in Backland. Emlyn said solemnly, the mysterious world and the real world continue to merge and finally become one. This is a foreseeable future. Leonard leaned back slightly on the chair, looking very relaxed. We may also be able to participate in this matter and build a few schools belonging to our Tarot Club. Furs said with a slight smile. At this point in the discussion, Audrey asked the members of the Tarot Club to vote on whether the Tarot Club would participate in the construction of the Mysticism School. It's interesting to think about establishing a school belonging to the Tarot Club. The teachers who teach basic mysticism knowledge can be the members who joined 3 years ago. Most of them are at Sequence 7 and Sequence 6, which is just right. Shu and Furs both voted in favor. Our blood clan's ancestor, Lady Lilith, sent down an oracle some time ago, saying that if Mr. Fool agrees, our blood clan wants to work with the Tarot Club to establish such a school. Seeing everyone's eyes on him, Emlyn quickly added a few more words. Our blood clan's requirements are very low. We only need to open an additional related subject in the school's teaching. We can provide a lot of financial support. We can also help Backland choose a suitable venue. There is no way. Now various churches are competing to snatch believers. It is too difficult to obtain high-quality believers. The self-reproduction of their blood clan is too slow. As the only clan of the Earth Mother Goddess, they cannot provide enough believers for her. This is simply a waste of the gods' grace. For this reason, some big figures in their blood clan even openly let some young blood clan members marry ordinary human women. If the children born are of human blood, they will stay in the human world. If they awaken the characteristics of the blood clan, they will be brought back to the clan for cultivation. They even started to urge marriage for the first time. If he did not have the titles of blood clan savior, ancestor, and Tarot Club member, he would have been dragged to blind dates and reproduce the next generation. Haha, who let your blood clan boast of a long lifespan and always want to enjoy life first, so you develop a slow temperament, so that the efficiency of reproduction is low and cannot satisfy the gods. Catalia chuckled. Being good at reproduction, this may be the unique talent that humans have to become the current world masters. Alger said with emotion. Leonard smiled and said, maybe it's time to set up a research association to protect endangered species and continue the descendants of the blood clan. This is called less worry and more happiness in life. Emlyn muttered in his heart. Derek, who had always been at odds with Emlyn, also voted in favor silently. Their giants also faced the same dilemma, and it was even more difficult to reproduce than the blood clan. The blood clan and ordinary humans look similar, and both men and women are on the high side of the appearance, but their giants are not like that. Just the appearance of their physique is destined to make them unable to intermarry with thin humans, and their aesthetic standards are different, so they can basically not get along. The only thing to be thankful for is that the three great beings worshipped by Silver City have no specific religious requirements for the residents of Silver City. I have no objection. Alger also voted in favor. In this case, we will need someone to contact the high-level officials of the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night to discuss this matter together. Does this need to be discussed? Catalia glanced at Emlyn, and Audrey and the others nodded silently, approving this choice. I don't like going out. We don't need to believe in your blood clan ancestor Lilith. Quote. Emlyn had no choice but to take on this task with a painful face, but he soon returned to his normal mood. There were many members in the blood clan who wanted to share the worries of the ancestor Lilith, and he only needed to distribute the things. The members of the Tarot Club discussed the relevant matters of establishing a school for a while, and then began to talk about the most lively and eye-catching starry sky change incident a few days ago. The starry sky change that night was talked about by ordinary people, and many kingdoms. Related newspapers called the phenomenon of that night a meteor shower across the sky. In the mysterious world, many extraordinary people with outstanding spirituality exploded and died that night because they spied on knowledge far beyond what they could know. For the members of the Tarot Club, that night was also unforgettable because the sleeping Mr. Fool woke up briefly. Mr. Fool, who woke up, did not convene a tarot club on purpose. He just gave them different guidance in a form that was between dreams, so that they could better face the future. In this regard, Alger had the deepest experience. He was the head of the Fool Church and a believer and follower directly under the Fool, unlike other members of the Tarot Club who had other identities. The instructions he received were to expand faith and lay out enough faith anchors for Mr. Fool. Mr. Fool needed faith anchors, at least in the confrontation with the Heavenly Lord. Faith was indispensable. Something big did happen in the starry sky that night, but I think we should not delve into the reasons. The starry sky is too far away from us and too dangerous. Catalia reminded. Furs and Zio looked at each other and said nothing. That night, as believers of the stars, they vaguely realized that the changes in the starry sky were related to the stars, and the sage was there to help them understand the deeper secrets. But it cannot be mentioned, nor can it be thought about on weekdays, let alone deeply thought about. After the starry sky changes that night, many churches from the starry sky are much more low-key than usual, and there is almost no trace of activity on the surface. Hiding in the dark is actually a more dangerous thing. Everyone, let's talk about something more relaxed. Let the gods solve the changes from the starry sky. Leonard smiled and said, that night, he also received the revelation of Mr. Fool, and even chatted with Klein for a few words. Although the time was very short, it also gave him more confidence in Klein's awakening. As for what happened in the starry sky, even the old man was not qualified to know, let alone him. Audrey did not express her opinion on this issue and remained silent. Backland, the former royal palace has become the residence of the current Archon. After holding several relevant meetings, Greg Nigan, now the Archon of the Republic of Lowen, finally got a satisfactory result. Regarding the establishment of a school to teach occult knowledge, the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night have agreed to hold a occult school in Backland for a pilot. Even the Tarot Club, which has always been mysterious, has sent people to contact them, wanting to discuss relevant cooperation and jointly establish an occult school. In this way, this matter will be approved by the three gods of the stars, the Fool, and the Goddess of the Night, and it will definitely be successfully implemented. Once occult knowledge is no longer mysterious, and even the whole people step into the gate of the extraordinary world, then the restriction that the rulers cannot become extraordinary people will inevitably be dismantled. This is the real purpose of his active promotion of the establishment of the occult university. The ruler with a lifespan of 100 years is too pitiful, and he also wants to pursue that almost endless life. As for the so-called doomsday rumors, he believes that the gods such as the stars and the Fool will not let this day come. Even if there is really a doomsday, then mastering stronger power will have more chances of survival. Lord Gregg, the two bishops of the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night, as well as Mr. Emlyn, the head of the Tarot Club, have all arrived at the reception room. When Gregg was thinking deeply, a close minister came to remind him. Gregg calmed down and walked towards the reception room in high spirits. Hello, Lord Gregg, please sit down, all three of you. Gregg showed a kind face as a politician. Regarding the establishment of the University of Mysticism, all parties have discussed it. Now it depends on Lord Gregg's opinion. The speaker was Bishop Moni of the Church of the Stars. I agreed with this matter from the beginning. Popularizing the knowledge of mysticism and allowing the people to have equal rights to freely learn knowledge is a good thing that benefits the country and the people, and it is also the trend of the future. Gregg said and ordered someone to fetch Backland's map, in which an area located at the junction of the East District and the North District has been circled in red. This is the address for you to build a school. The specific size and how to build it from scratch will be discussed with you by officials from relevant departments. The conversation in the reception room lasted only about half an hour. Emlyn, who left the Grek mansion, looked back twice before returning to his residence. In the close conversation just now, he had a feeling that this Lord Grek seemed to be a Beander, and his sequence was not low. But the people of the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night should have known this, right? Emlyn thought about it, checked the time, and made a detour to a luxury specialty store in the West District that specializes in selling dolls. Well, this is one of their vampires, external contact points, and it was purchased at his strong request. On September 1, 1360, the first school that teaches mystical knowledge, the Extraordinary Academy, officially began to enroll students in Backland. The Extraordinary Academy is open to students from all over the world. It is a 3-year university. The selected students are not only exempt from tuition fees, but also have a part of the financial resources allocated by the Republic of Lowen to provide necessary living expenses. After graduation, they can directly join the civil service system of the Republic of Lowen. As soon as this news came out, the eyes of the whole world were focused on Backland. When they learned that this extraordinary academy was jointly established by the Church of the Stars, the Church of the Night, and the Tarot Club, the entire extraordinary world was instantly detonated. Except for some extraordinary people with old-fashioned ideas who thought this was undesirable and an act of expanding the disaster, most extraordinary people knew that the tide of the world was about to change again. For the general public, this is naturally a great thing. Not only can they learn mystical knowledge for free and become extraordinary people who surpass ordinary people, but they also provide necessary living expenses. After graduation, they can directly join the civil service system. It is simply the best university in the world. Moreover, in the enrollment brochure of the Extraordinary Academy, it is mentioned that when recruiting new students, they do not look at the status of their status or whether they have received higher education. As long as they are between the ages of 16 and 25, they can come to register and take the test. Even the most prestigious university in Backland is far less attractive than the Extraordinary Academy. In order to allow more people to have the opportunity to come to Backland to register, the Extraordinary Academy provides a 1-month registration period, and Emlyn's Blood Clan has provided a large amount of funds to subsidize the round-trip travel expenses of poor applicants. When these news were passed back to Intis, Russell slapped his thigh in regret. Such a good opportunity, why didn't he catch up? It's really not as good as eating shit. The Intis historian at the side silently recorded this sentence in the biography of Roger Gustav. But soon, Russell reacted. He immediately convened the ministers and the high-level officials of the Steam Church and the half-dead Eternal Sun Church for a 3-day meeting. It was finally decided that in December of this year, Intis would also establish a school to teach mystical knowledge, and Russell acted arbitrarily, regardless of the dissuasion of others, and named this school that had not yet been built as the Super God Academy. As soon as this news came out, the Faesak Empire, Faenaport Kingdom, and Balam Empire immediately followed suit. The enrollment time they planned was the same as that of the Intis Republic. The Star Sea Kingdom directly established a Star Sea Academy in the name of the stars. Only those who believe in the stars can join this academy. When the Extraordinary Academy announced its enrollment, it followed closely, obviously having been prepared for it. In this wave that swept the world, not only the major kingdoms participated in it, but also many outer god churches followed suit to establish schools. However, they were not recognized by the government and several major Orthodox churches, so they could only hide in the dark. The Extraordinary Academy, which had the advantage of publicity, finally selected 500 candidates to become the first batch of students to enter the Extraordinary Academy after a month of selection. The unsuccessful candidates were vague about the specific test links. They only knew that they were eliminated, but forgot the specific test content. Not long after, the general content of the test was circulated in the extraordinary world. The test of the Extraordinary Academy is based on divination, supplemented by psychological exploration. After investigating the character, it examines willpower, observation, mental strength and other aspects. It can be said that candidates who can be retained are superior to ordinary people in many aspects. At the entrance ceremony, Emlyn attended as a representative of the Tarot Club and was also one of the 3 vice presidents of the Extraordinary Academy. For this reason, he specifically asked Alger for extraordinary items that could disguise his true face, so that his age and appearance would look more in line with the posture of middle-aged and elderly people. In November of the same year, a large-scale extraordinary event broke out near the Extraordinary Academy. The outer gods disguised themselves as ordinary people and sneaked into the academy, wanting to sacrifice all the students and destroy the entire Extraordinary Academy. In the end, it was the law enforcers of the Church of the Stars who took action to quell the turmoil. In January 1361, just after the New Year, a wave of doomsday thoughts broke out in various parts of the world, claiming that 1368 would be the end of the world, and all living beings would die in this doomsday. The only way to save yourself is to flee to the starry sky and seek the protection of the gods in the starry sky. Under the instigation of many foreign god churches, even if several major kingdoms and the Orthodox God Church joined forces, they still could not stop the rapid spread of the doomsday prophecy. Under the influence of the doomsday prophecy, the extraordinary world and the real world experienced huge shocks. Many people who were ignorant or afraid of the starry sky and eager to be saved chose to join the foreign god church. In March 1361, the Cthulhu cult became active again. They claimed that they could send ordinary people to the starry sky to touch the ultimate door in the starry sky, and thereby obtain the blessing of the gods, transcend life and death, and survive in the doomsday. Many foreign god churches followed closely, and at the same time declared that the earth would eventually be destroyed, and the future of all living beings lies in the starry sky. At the same time, the Cthulhu cult announced that on January 1, 1362, it would send the most devout believers to the starry sky, so that they could see the gods and obtain eternal life beyond life and death. In order to promote its doctrine, the Cthulhu cult has developed a product called Wong Chinli through extraordinary power and modern technology, which can present what is happening thousands of miles away on a black screen. It is said that it is to broadcast the historic moment of sending believers to the starry sky simultaneously. For this reason, the Church of the Stars, the Church of the Night, the Tarot Club, the Steam Church, etc. cooperated with several major kingdoms to strangle the Cthulhu cult. Some foreign god churches also joined the battle, and the originally stable world situation once again set off huge waves. In April 1361, the Kingdom of Fainaport of the Republic of Intis and the Faisak Empire founded 3 extraordinary colleges. In June of the same year, a mysterious ancient palace appeared deep in the sea, which was suspected to be secretly in the holy city of Relaya where Cthulhu lived. In July of the same year, the Glorious Church announced that the god of gloriousness it believed in was renamed the God of Light, and the authority involved was to control all light. In August of the same year, the Church of the Eternal Sun lost in the struggle for power. At the most critical moment, the old Pope Ross Hurley, who had retired long ago, suddenly appeared and took over the ruined Church of the Eternal Sun. When Pope Ross Hurley came to power again, the first thing he did was to lead the Church of the Eternal Sun to merge into the Church of the Stars. So far, the Church of the Eternal Sun has completely disappeared from the stage of history, and the description of the power of the stars in the Church of the Stars has also added a sentence: he gave the sun new light and meaning. In October of the same year, in the territory of the Republic of Intis, 2 ancient clones of the outer gods were suppressed by the box of the old ones because they forced their way into the sealed disordered country. In December 1361, there were only 10 days left before the Cthulhu cult sent its believers to the starry sky. On Saphira Castle, the Tarot Club meeting was held again to discuss how to solve the impact caused by the Cthulhu cult and stop the Cthulhu cult's crazy plan. It's strange. We have joined hands with the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night to eliminate members of the Cthulhu cult many times, but their members have not decreased, but increased. So far, we have not investigated which outer god in the starry sky is the leader behind the Cthulhu cult. There is no new news from the Church of the Stars, and they are also puzzled by this. After entering the Starry Age, the Tarot Club has not encountered anything that requires too much distress for a long time. I have come into contact with those time travelers who do not belong to this era, and learned a lot of information about Cthulhu from them, but it is still too simple. Furs shook his head. From the information she knew, Cthulhu was just a more famous outer god in the Cthulhu mythology system. The power, status, and strength he held could not be compared with some powerful outer gods. In theory, it is impossible to set off such a terrifying wave in the real world. Just when the members of the Tarot Club fell into thought and silence, a familiar voice suddenly sounded. Because there is more than one outer god behind the Cthulhu cult. This voice is Mr. Fool. The Tarot Club members were stern, and their eyes simultaneously looked at the head of the bronze long table, where a slightly illusory figure was being generated. But the strange black twisted lines seemed to bind his body, preventing him from completely condensing into shape. Let it go. The illusory figure broke apart again, turning into wisps of gray mist and dispersing. Mr. Fool left again. The Tarot Club members felt heavy in their hearts. From this scene, it can be seen that Mr. Fool did not really have the upper hand in the battle with Tianzun, at most they were evenly matched. Let it go. Mr. Fool means that we should not interfere in this matter. Audrey got rid of the complicated emotions in her heart and directed everyone's thoughts to the main topic. It involves more than one outer god, Old One. This is no longer something we can handle unilaterally. Inform the Church of the Stars and the Church of the Night, and we will no longer interfere in this matter. Let me talk to them about this matter. First took the initiative to take on this matter. On January 1, 1362, the Cthulhu cult held a grand mysterious ceremony on the island of Ceres in the sea. They selected 10 devout believers and put them into a crystal coffin made with secret methods. The surface of the crystal coffin is engraved with a large number of dense grooves and lines. Those lines are like winding roots forward, and the end of the root is a huge portal emitting white light. When the blood of various creatures from the sea, land, and sky was poured on the coffin, the grooves of the crystal coffin were filled, forming bloody lines. Then the 2-meter-long coffin suddenly shrank to the size of rice grains. Under the prayers and gazes of a large number of believers, it flew in the opposite direction towards the starry sky like a meteor. The members of the Cthulhu cult reproduced this scene in various cities, on the black curtains that had been prepared long ago, so that a large number of ordinary people could see this miraculous scene. When the 10 crystal coffins were about to pass through the initial barrier crack, the goddess of night intercepted the 10 crystal coffins, but there was no living person inside, only a pool of bright flesh and blood. Those so-called devout believers had already died. This scene was not projected on the black curtain. Instead, what appeared on the black curtain was a brilliant starry sky. A huge ultimate portal stretched across the depths of the starry sky, and the 10 selected devout believers had arrived at the entrance of the ultimate gate at this moment to receive the gift from the gods. The picture on the black curtain came to an abrupt end. The goddess of night watched this scene with a hint of sarcasm on her lips. It was not easy. Those old outer gods in the starry sky also learned this kind of fraudulent means. But the real miracle fermentation is still to come. On March 8, 1362, the night should have belonged to the period under the jurisdiction of the goddess of night. A dream covering almost all the creatures in the world occurred. In the dream, there were doomsday scenes of falling meteors, cracking of the earth, eruption of volcanoes, backflow of seawater. Only the lucky ones who ascended to the starry sky could get the blessing of the great existence and avoid this doomsday disaster. The outer god church, which widely promoted the doctrine of the coming of the end of the world, called this dream, the last gift. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.